Yeah, NBA, they're awesome. Got a lot of NBA stuff on my shelf back here.
This is Harbortown. Harbortown is an all-new series.
And one fell swoop, John almost caught up to me in the amount of venture building authority.
Flexible and playable.
Well, that's one fell swoop guided by Jay Scott, who walked me through the NBA site and filled my cart with a bunch of stuff. So,
so now you have to buy a bigger house because your basement is filled up with stuff.
I'm working. I got room in here. Okay, I got a nice basement here. It's not Jay style, but it's okay, and I got plenty of room. So
it looks great. So yeah.
There's nothing better than spending other people's money.
Jay's good at that. Yeah, he's really good at that.
John, are you East Coast, West Coast, Central?
Okay, so great question. Originally, I'm sort of I'm all over the place. I was born in Arizona, but lived mostly on the West Coast. Grew up in California, Pomona, sort of San Bernardino County. But I moved out here. Now I'm in Tennessee. I've been here for about 11 years. So I'm sort of East Central now in the U.S. What about you?
I'm in Ohio, Northeast Ohio. I was born in Chicago, though.
Oh, not far at all. I was up in Chicago just a few months ago.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, I'm proud Chicagoan. What about you, Brian?
I am at Ann Arbor, so University of Michigan area.
I got my ass kicked up in Ann Arbor many times. I have very bad, poor memories of that.
I will say, well, I work for the University of the Health System. I am not. I'm not a sports guy, so people think, "Oh, you work for the University of Michigan, you must love." No.
No, I went to college on a hockey scholarship at Bowling Green, and at that point in time, the CCHA Michigan was part of that, and boy, you guys were really good back then, and we were very mediocre when I played.
Do you still play?
No, I'm long since retired. I just turned 50 the other day.
Well, I'm 49. Yeah, I'm turning 50 next year, so
it was brutal. It's been brutal for me as an athlete.
Hey, Will.
Hey, everybody.
Hey.
How's it going?
Good.
Will, how you doing, brother?
Pretty good, man. How you doing?
Good,
Happy
man.
Father's Day.
I really enjoyed watching your show the other day. You and your players were awesome.
Oh, the sci-fi one?
Yep.
Yeah,
Very cool.
It's a good group.
What games system are you running then for sci-fi? Starfighter?
Well, no, it's
real sci-fi, not fantasy sci-fi.
Correct. It's I took the Open D6 rule set and I'm converting it into something else. So I call it the Wicked D6.
Nice.
So it's
That's kind of traveler reminiscent, or because that original travel system was a movie D6.
Yeah, Traveler's D6 only.
D6, yeah. It's a lot more lighthearted, a lot easier.
Oh yeah, so you don't die during character creation.
No, it's nothing like that sort of stuff at all. But yeah. That was the end of the second part, Carlos. There'll be a third part to that too.
Very nice.
Tune in for that.
Vampire. So, happy Father's Day to all you fathers.
Yeah, happy Father's Day.
Thank you. Actually, the shirt I'm repping right here, this is not just a repro. My daughter got this for me. This is an original old school Tories shirt from the 80s. So
why are you wearing it? That should be like in some glass. Let me change my background.
So I'm hopefully none of my players are on right now because I'm saving this, but this is going to be one of the principal villains in my Greyhawk Awakening campaign, sort of in the first to second stage because I got multiple levels. This is actually a Warhammer model, but I had the incredible Atlas Minis paint this in something which was more true to Greyhawk. It's an orcish warlord atop this sort of majestic, I'm going to make him an immature red dragon. It is unbelievable. He spent 40 hours of work on this thing.
I bet.
It is just gorgeous.
It shows, man. That thing's beautiful.
Thank you. I'm grateful. He's incredible. Atlas Mini, he's a great guy. He's actually moving into a different field now. He's actually working for a corporation, so he's not going to be doing any minis for me anymore. But that was all like free. He's such a good guy. Awesome.
Yeah. Fantastic. I just for my mine's not nearly as huge, as big as that thing, but I just got a few minis done for by Mike Disney for a charity thing that I'm going to be running here at the top of next year. So
I've seen Mike Disney on Jay's channel. He's very talented. Wow.
Oh yeah, he did 3 cheetahs for me for the module.
Oh, rock on.
Yeah, the module is for the charity is going to benefit Cheetah Conservation Fund. It's my passion.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I love the animal, and it top of next year we're going to be doing a week, 7 days straight worth of gaming. I'm going to run 7 different games of the with VIP players and some people like yourselves out there that are going to hopefully will generate a lot of interest in it. And I'll be selling the module, and I'll be raffling off some gifts and things like that.
Carlos, how many did you do last year? Was it 3 nights or 4?
For my charity, I think I did 3. Yeah, I did 3 last time. This time I'm really going all out because this is my charity of choice. So I'm really excited about it. The module is, and I don't think I told you this, but I'm going to let you in on a little secret. I have I've commissioned, and I actually already have it, a map of Southern Hepmona Land in detail that you can use to add to your stuff.
Awesome.
So,
thank you.
yeah, we can collaborate on that. I've added a couple of things to it that aren't on the map, so that
that is perfect because I want to dig into Hepmona Land very soon.
Right.
Yeah. Awesome.
So hey, Amanda, great to see you on. Gaetano, great to see you on. Retro Gamer, Mike. This show is probably in honor of you because you gave me kind of the idea for it, and Build-A-Master Crafters and Sharks gave the idea for it. So looking forward to this one tonight. Got a nice, really crowd of all the Greyhawk, not all, but all the main Greyhawk streamers. Right? We got a whole crew on tonight. It's gonna be a fun discussion.
Thank
You guys make me feel bad because, one, I don't use minis, but when I did tabletop, I used the wood pegs.
That's okay.
Like that. Have I told you this story before?
Yeah,
Where
man,
it's like,
it's fine.
if you buy them all, and they got like small ones, big ones, lady ones, and then you draw them.
No, I love that. I love that. And look, I'm a tech geek. In fact, I've got a thing coming up Wednesday. I'm going to talk about all the tech I use. You know, a lot of it's use Elgato Stream Decks. I've got one of those, but I've got some cool customizations. I've got a software developer that I work with that's helped me with the batch script, the lighting, the Philips. So I love all this sort of real in the room, but I love Fantasy Grounds and Roll20. I've been looking at all that stuff. It's a fantastic way to augment the game. But for me, and you know, I'm always careful about being, sort of, careful with what I say. But I've got to just be honest. I started the game in the late '70s, and when I started playing the game, I knew I was a geek. I knew it was in my blood when my stepfather had Playboy magazines, and I know that's like I'm not authorizing that or supporting. I'm just saying he had I would take those magazines, I would trade them to my friends for lead figures.
Yeah,
they
have the old lead figure, the old Ralph Partha Grinner like lead figures. I would trade those magazines for the lead figures, and I look back 20, 30 years later, I'm like, whoa, you can't get any geekier than that.
No, that's definitely in our tribe. In fact, I elect you chief for that.
Yeah, that's
awesome.
That's smart.
That's top of the nerdy food chain.
Yeah, you can't get any more nerdy than that.
I think you. When I think about everybody when we started, you started just a little bit ahead of me, right?
I started
in '78.
Yeah, I started in '79, and So
I'm older than I'm back further than you. Then I'm '78.
Oh yeah.
So, but I thought you were. I thought you were
5 years
77
older
for some
than you,
reason.
so I started much later. But it took some years for it to penetrate over the Atlantic. But Sweden, we were early. We knew about one other group in Stockholm that played, and we lived on the other side of the country, so we knew one other group that because there was no internet or nothing like that, so you'd never. It was hard to understand that was to find out anyone else was doing it. So. But it took a little while, and then it was a store that opened that sold board games and stuff in Gothenburg, and from there we got a few other gamers, and we started. It was a convention they started, so we were part of organizing that and stuff. So then it grew kind of quickly after in the early '80s.
Isn't it
By
cool
the way,
that the discussions?
I'm looking at the Twitch feed right now. Retro Gamer Meth did. I think he missed the story about your Atari shirt because he mentions that he's talking about you. Of course, you're a geek. You're wearing an Atari shirt. He's got a great story about that.
I'm not watching the chat right now. I probably should bring that up, but yeah, thank you, Retro. And man, what a great guy. He's actually helping us out. A long-time supporter of Jay, of course, and he's actually modding our channel now for Greyhawk Awakening. So thanks, Retro. And yeah, I'm a geek. I own it, and like I love the way the game has changed because honestly, I hid this 15, 20 years ago. I was not as open about it, and I think as I've gotten older and just kind of given less of a crap, and then as I've seen the social stuff get bigger and bigger, I've been more open about my gaming and the stuff that I love, and it's I love it.
Yeah, it's great.
It's a great, some great points, and that's why I love just keeping the chat going there, flowing right into,
Hey,
into the
Jay,
discussion.
Could
So-
you do me a huge favor? Could you do a shout out to John's his chat, because I don't even think I'm subscribed to it or anything. I need to get on that.
Yeah.
Oh
Here.
wow, okay.
One
All right,
second.
thank you, Carlos.
Yeah. Well, I'll hit announces up for everyone, but let me pop this on right now. Boom. Look at that! It works tonight. Woo!
Thanks, Jay. I appreciate it. Bud.
No
it was
problem.
working before, just on delay, right?
Oh my gosh, yeah, it's just so good evening, everyone. This is going to be an exciting discussion. Make Greyhawk your own. I'm Jay Killer Gazumba. I got a great crew tonight. So what I'm going to have is everyone, I'm going to start, we'll go clockwise, and just going to introduce themselves, what they do in the community. And please, guys and gals, tell us your play style, Theater of the Mind, VTT, tabletop, the rules edition to use, and I know this is a lot to remember, what locations kind of you use in Greyhawk to start off. So, Brian, I'm going to start you off at the top.
Woohoo! Yep. So I'm Brian, Sublime BW. On like anything socially, video gamey, doesn't matter. You look it up. Sublime BW is probably me. Do some modding for Jay. I do some Saturday night specials for Jay, and I run my own table. Used to be in person, but due to the COVID times, we are virtual tabletop.
Which
Let's
is
see.
what virtual?
Fantasy Grounds. I do play a game with Roll20, but I just like Fantasy Grounds much more as a DM.
What do you like about it more, if I could ask?
The automation. Like
Yeah.
I tell you what, like when you get things going, like boom, 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 just to have the damage automatically applied, to have the Rob 2E spell coding effects is amazing.
Yeah, he's pretty genius with that.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's awesome.
So as far as what I do, like I do maps, minis. I do if it's a quick combat, it's Theater of the Mind all the time. But you don't always have to have a map and mini. Sometimes, it's more fun to do Theater of the Mind. And then virtual tabletop.
Where are you
5e.
playing? In Greyhawk.
Oh, Greyhawk. We are in Solenmore, which kind of disappointed me because I picked Solenmore, and then like 2 weeks later, Wizard of the Coast was like, "Hey, here's Salt Marsh," but then they're like, "But we took it out of Greyhawk." So
Yeah, understood. But you've come up with, and we're going to discuss during making this your own. I mean, he's taken a twist on some things too in that area, which is fantastic. So, Brian, thanks for participating in this. Brian was on 2 weeks ago, if you all remember, in the crafting show. We had Brian, Build-A-Master Crafter, and Mike Disney on. That was a great one. So, looking for another good one tonight. Anna.
I still have these on my desk because I didn't mail them out yet.
Well, good thing.
Always ready. Yeah. Well, yeah. So yeah, I'm kind of familiar to most viewers of in the chat right now, I think, but there might be some new ones that are around and watch it afterwards. So I'm Anna B. Meyer, and I've been playing Greyhawk since it came out in '83. And I actually got into Greyhawk more by accident because we had a great DM who ran kind of a Tolkien mishmash something and a few things in there. He even said in Hamlet in his campaign when that came out. And I just didn't know how all this kind of awesome stories, how they came to be. So one day, a few years when we played, I think it was like late '83, and the box set was in the game store, and I was like, and I opened and started reading through because they didn't have them shrink wrapped actually, so you can actually sift through the books a bit. And
Oh my
I looked
gosh.
and said, this is where the magic comes from. So I bought that book and didn't tell anyone about it, and read it on vacation that summer, and read it through and realized this is what I've what I want to run. So I started running in Greyhawk, and then when the original DM we had, when he moved away to America actually for on a scholarship, and we started rotating the DM ship around, and after about I've done it twice, and everybody pointed and said, now you're running our games from then on. So I've been running Greyhawk for forever, basically, with many different game groups over the years. And back in Sweden, where I lived until 10 years ago when I moved to California. So I've been running not every year, but I've been running almost every year for 40 years. And it's been on and off. Some years it's only been 2 or 3 times, like 2 or 3 weekends. And some years it's been 50 times a year, so almost every week. So the last campaign I ran that was big was set in Rel Devon in the aftermath of the Living Greyhawk campaign and the wars, and that way. So in the kind of the new United Kingdom of Alyssa and North Kingdom rising, and kind of have the power struggle in between. That was and we played for I think about 67 or 65 sessions over almost 5 years. And that was a lot of fun. And then it kind of fizzled out because there was a lot of people going left and right, and I got so busy with other stuff too, so it fizzled out. But it was a lot of fun. That was awesome fun. It was a lot of different players over the years. It was not one coherent
Guys,
group, kind of varied. Yeah.
Leonard's about to come. Leonard's hopping on.
Awesome.
Leonard, yes!
Awesome. Yep.
Ah,
Yeah. My place.
Leonard.
Yo!
I love the surprise look when the camera came on, Leonard. That was awesome.
I was like, what? Sit tight, Leonard. We're doing an introduction. So talking about making Greyhawk your own. So Anna, what system do you what system and what style?
Yeah, I'm very sandboxy, very, very, very sandboxy, and I guess I'm almost infamous for that now. But I'm going to have some ideas later on why it works for me and what I do different to make it work. But I run very sandboxy. I take part of Greyhawk, I detail as much as the players of all the areas and all the things that are in there, and then the players, I'll let them loose and go anywhere, so to speak, and just let things unfold as they come. And it's requires a hell of a lot of prep. I usually prep a year before a campaign, and I have maps and details and
A year?
ideas and stuff. Oh yeah,
Only a year.
A year. Yeah, only a year.
Yeah, only a year.
Yeah.
Only a year.
Usually, and that's why I want to stay geographically limited. So each campaign is usually within a few hundred miles, and so I have it detailed, and then I move on to a different area, so to speak. And the game systems have varied from the AD&D first edition all the way over third edition. There were 3.5 for many years, and then I tried fourth edition a little bit, didn't like it much, switched to Pathfinder and ran for Pathfinder for 10 years, and now I'm testing the waters with both PF2 and 5e, but I think it will be PF2 for me.
Oh, I thought you were going to step into Castles and Crusades too.
I want to talk to you, Anna, about why you've chosen that. That's very interesting. Another topic for another day, but that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Carlos, welcome back.
Hey, thanks, man. I appreciate you guys having me tonight.
You're welcome.
I'm Carlos A.S. Lysing. I'm a publisher of and lead game designer for Castle Entertainment. We do 1E publication, well, Osric publication anyway. Dovetails real well with 1E. You'll see me on that's what the system I run. I run 1E. I incorporate some elements of other systems, some good ideas that I think they've had, but the game system is still 1E. You probably see my modules around here from castlentertainment.com. I do a lot of
Fantastic.
yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I write adventures. I run a Patreon at patreon.com/Castle Entertainment. You'll see me running games here on Twitch. I do a bi-weekly game called The First Betrayal, which takes place in Radek. Primarily, however, when I started playing in 77, or 78, I should say, I remember my experience was a little bit different than Anna's. I was at a hobby store back where I was born in Chicago, and I was looking through the books. I was just enraptured by them. I was very interested in them, but I never got a chance to play. When my good friend John got the red box for his birthday, or excuse me, the Holmes Basic box for his birthday, or Christmas, I should say. I'm sorry, I'm conflating things. He I begged him to play. I was like, I really want to play. He's like, I don't know, man. Let's play video games. So we ended up playing. I played a magic user, and I died in the second room. I got killed by a carrion crawler, but I was hooked. I was hooked forever. I didn't realize I wasn't Gandalf, and I couldn't cast the spell that I had every whatever.
Yeah.
So, but I was hooked. I thought it was amazing. I saw the potential in the game, and I've DM'd since then and played extensively. My old stomping grounds since then have been Perrinland, but much like Anna, I kind of jump around a lot. I played mostly in Perrinland. I tend to DM all around the Flyness, but my interest is really outside the Flyness at this point. As many of you know, it's like the worst kept secret in Greyhawk. I'm working on a massive master book for Fireland. Right now, it's about 700 pages, full art, Jeff Easley cover, the whole 9 yards. So it's
That was awesome.
it's going to be a free product when I'm done with it. I'm just going to give it away because I really want everybody to. It's my way of carrying out my love letter to the Gygax family and my way of carrying on the, holding the torch and giving it to a new generation.
That's awesome.
Thank you, Leonard. We'll do the carrot on the. We'll do the cherry on top. We'll save Leonard for last in the introductions here. Will, because he is the legend.
I lost my cherry a long time ago.
Everybody, I'm Will, or I go by Will DM. Let's see. What were all those questions again, Jay? I forgot them all. There were so many of them.
Well, come on. You're playing.
I started I'm the late bloomer. I started in 81.
Woo!
Yeah, and I remember that because that's the same year that Princess Diana and Prince Charles got married. That's how I always remember when I started, because that happened at that same time. I'm the primary, I guess you would say, Dungeon Master, Game Master over on Wicked Studios. We have every Tuesdays, and this is, I'm glad you brought it up for us to explain what we do, because you've been getting it wrong for like a number of shows now.
Rocking the host, no.
Yes, but wait, it's, and I understand why, because you explained it before. But right now, what we changed the name of the show. It's Greyhawk Adventures.
I still say
you say Return to the Bandit. We haven't been in the Bandit. Yeah, we haven't been in the Bandit Kingdoms for over a year now.
I'm sorry. I say it all the I'm You're
That's
right.
so
I
cool.
apologize.
You do.
I do.
It makes me giggle every time, so it's
Yeah,
not
that's
that big.
It's like,
Yeah,
I'm too old.
But right now, currently, we're in the Bone March.
Leonard
Awesome
likes
area.
Bone March Rotic. Yeah.
We've gone from Bandit Kingdoms to Salt March, up to into the Dreadwood, and then now we're over in the Bone March. So.
And you're 5e roll 20.
5e, but we're definitely on roll 20. 5e currently. That's going to change. So, yeah. Right now, the system that is actually in the lead to replace it is Pathfinder 2e.
Oh, interesting. We need to look into.
Got some synergy.
Yeah, that's pretty.
That is the number one that is in the lead for the mechanics of it all. So
interesting.
I agree.
And I also write, I draw. You can see my articles and my artwork in the Orith Journal. Yep. And I have a couple of things published whenever I get around to actually finishing stuff that I start writing, because I have a tendency to start writing and the projects balloon. And so
that's never happened to me.
Right? And I'll be having a blog will be starting up soon, which basically what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to start taking all my prep work and different things and turning those into articles and putting them onto a blog. So the only thing it's waiting on now is I'm finishing up content. So I don't want to just launch it and then, oh, there's that one article. And then wait, there's going to be another one. So I want to get like a good 10 articles on there. I've got 5 so far. And then after I hit that 10 mark, then I'll go ahead and I'll launch it and just add to it from there on out. That's it.
Thank you, Will. And the rookie of the group, John Birchfield, Blue Box RPG. John, welcome.
Thank you so much. And like Jay, it gives me such joy to be called a rookie
to the Greyhawk world.
I started playing in 1978, 79. I was 7, 8 years old. And I learned on the original AD&D, or pardon me, D&D, Red Box, Basic, and Blue Box Expert Edition. This is the moniker that Blue Box is drawn from. Even before I started playing AD&D, I had the original Monster Manual, the original Player's Handbook, DM's Guide. I got sitting back here on a shelf somewhere. And I played the game as a kid. Told you some of the stories already beforehand that really told me that I loved it. And I played it up into my mid-20s. And then I took a hiatus for about 10 years. And other reasons I did that, I'll talk about on another show. But I started playing again in my mid-30s. I taught my family to play. And I've got 3 kids. They were at the time 11, 8, and 4. And now I got a sophomore in college and a graduated collegiate student. And they still play the game. They still come home and play with me. So it was about a year ago, my son came to me. He's the sophomore in college, and he said, "You should really be streaming this on Twitch." And as a Twitch, who watches people play games on Twitch? Like, what is that? And he was so right. So I've always loved the game. I am an OG player. I really like the mini setups and the physical terrain, but I'm Gen X, right? So I love all the computer stuff. I used to code in BASIC on my TRS-80, 16K files recorded to cassettes, so I love all that. So that's why I like the tech, the geeky stuff, the Elgato Stream Decks, all the multiple 4K cameras and sound and audio, but bringing it back to the OG roots. That's my passion. So when I started Blue Box in 2019, it was really with the idea of bringing old school gaming, what I call OG, which is original geek in my lexicon, OG gaming. I wanted to show people what this game was about, the deep lore and the passion that I had as a kid. And I love 5e players. So my principal system is 3.5, or sort of the open gaming license stuff. I've leaned a lot on Pathfinder 1e, but I have the original D&D 1e, AD&D rules, 2e rules in my system. I've even got some custom stuff like these old Middle-earth role-playing Iron Crown Enterprises crit tables, which you can see these guys advertise on the back of almost every Dragon magazine. These are, I need to reprint these. These are going to be old.
Isn't that where yours are from, Jay, or is it from Rollmaster?
Mine?
Yeah, isn't that where you got the start for the?
We got the start from Roger Moore's crit tables and Dragon, and then my guy Alan did all the crit tables. Similar. And then he made the special ones for the crit and fumble tables for Tim only.
Tim only.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, that's fantastic. And they're by the way, they're very similar, Will. So, they have horrific consequences and great descriptions. And so my systems are, again, core 3.5, but I borrow elements mostly from 1E, 2E. I have one 5E element that I've introduced, which is advantage. I actually like the concept of advantage, and I use it in my campaigns. So I started out with this Pathfinder campaign that I run on Sundays, and that is based in the Pathfinder world of Golarion. I'm doing the essential sort of classic Rise of the Rune Lords, but I've modified it heavily. And then I'm building a home world, which then I decided to integrate into Greyhawk. And I met Jay several months ago, and I had no idea this community existed. So that's what makes me the rookie. I hooked up with Jay, and I saw what was going on his channel, and I thought, this is it. This is what I want to do. It spoke to me so much. So I decided I shelved my home brew world. It's going to launch in 2021 as a subcontinent of Auric, and it's going to be part of the Greyhawk world. And I built this campaign, which is now centered around, you can't get more classic than Hamlet. I know it's been done and done and done, but we're doing it differently. So it's based on Hamlet, but it's in the CY 630-ish range. I'm based on Jay's Greyhawk world with the incredible Anna B. Myers map. And I'm going to risk disconnecting my camera here to spin around for everybody to see.
Yeah, there it is.
Incredible. Nice.
Anna B. Myers 46-inch map on my wall.
Gorgeous.
It is glorious. And so that's what all my players are working in. And my style is, it's principally a combination. I like theater of mind. I want descriptions. I don't like it when people have you know, their tiles and their terrain and their minis, but they fail to give those descriptive elements of theater of mind. So I want to combine both. I have the minis, a lot of mini play. In fact, this is a table. Sorry, Jay, I don't mean I'll be done here in a second. But
You're good, man. You're good.
This table, my wife actually made this for me as a combination Father's Day and birthday present. It's got a 2-layer setup here. I've got the hue lighting, and I've got this rotatable area.
Oh, that's nice.
so when I'm playing all local, so one of my games is all local. Everyone's in the room. When everyone's in the room, I use this setup. So it gives them room for their dice trays and their campaign sheets and all that. And I've got multiple trays. This one's actually, I'm not going to turn it upside down, but I've got one that's water, one that's desert, one that's ice, and one that's forest. 4 different ones I can just take off and switch. But then when I'm running Greyhawk Awakening, I take this off. I've got an extension, and I try to get close to matching Jay. So I've got 6x4 area here, and I run all by myself in the game room. So it's mini play, it's theater of mind, heavy focus on immersion. So I use sound systems. I use Sirenscape with some custom setups that I'm going to talk about on Wednesday night with my Lore Masters Arcanum. But I just want to say, above all of that, I'm going to go back to Bill and Ted's "We're Not Worthy." I already felt that way with some of the folks on the channel, Anna, Jay. But then when Leonard pops in, I'm just
Leonard just shows up.
Yeah, I know. I'm so grateful to be part of this community, and thank you to Jay and Anna and everybody that's made me feel so welcome.
It's a pleasure, John. I mean, this is part of growing the community, and it's this show and stuff like Virtual Greyhawk Con. That's the whole point, is to grow this community back. And it's not necessarily to get. And Carlos and I agree on this. It doesn't matter if Wizards looks at us ever again or not. And I guess I bet you Leonard agrees that way too. It's about getting what's together and getting the community in one place and growing it, and everyone enjoying playing Greyhawk. And I think that's that's the whole thing. But let's talk to the grizzled veteran legend who popped on, Leonard. All right, so Leonard, you have your own. You basically have your own setting that you put into Greyhawk. You wanna? Right?
Well, yeah, Glendor Isle, but yeah, Gygax gave that to me. I have this hand-drawn map of Glendor Isle, which I sent to Anna. I sent that to you.
Yeah, you sent some awesome scans of it to me.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, I've been at this for a while. It started out as D&D. Gygax did the set of rules that would become chainmail on the Sunday after Gen Con 1, which was a one-day thing on Saturday. So whatever year that was, 74, 3, 5, some...
You said there were 99 people, right? You couldn't get a number one.
99 people.
Either way, you win, right?
99 people, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And of course, there was no fantasy supplement until the first chainmail came out from whoever it was. Don Lowry, I think, published it for a while. And he did a fantasy supplement, and it turned out that fantasy supplement was what eventually got us to D&D. Because someone, I think it was Arneson, said, well, you have a hero and you have a superhero. How did you get there? How did the hero become a superhero? And we all looked at each other and said, well, gee, I don't know. Which then opened the door to experience points and building your character.
Crap.
So, all that wonderful junk. As for Carlos, Chicago, I'm from Chicago. Which hobby shop?
The hobby shop was Games Plus for me, but
there was a big one up in, I think it was not in Evanston, I think it was in Skokie. It had a lot of stuff.
I lived in Oak Park growing up, and then we ended up moving north to Lake Zurich, and so we kind of split. I had to move hobby shops during my time there.
I envy you to have. Our temperatures all this week are going to be 107 to 111. So
humidity.
I don't need one of those caps, at least not at the nuts. Jade, just for the sake of it, I just wanted to mention to you that I'm going to send you this pretty soon.
Oh, good. And I'll be giving that away. I'll give
it
that away on a major stream.
Yeah,
Thank you.
take your time.
Awesome.
Photograph or Xerox a few things. I
Yeah.
don't want to break the spine of the book.
No,
Lay it flat inside.
I hate that.
Yeah.
That's why I get the PDF. I get the PDF and the hard copy. You gotta have both, because then I can snip snuff right into the. You gotta have both, guys.
Yeah.
You need them. You need them. All right. So let's do this. I'm going to ask you all one question, and I want you all to think one question which you want to ask everyone else, and then we're going to entertain some audience questions too. Here's my one question. It's deep. I'm going to start with Carlos and go clockwise here. What makes Greyhawk your own?
Well, the design of Greyhawk, starting from the very campaign's origins. I mean, one of the things that's the genius about Greyhawk to me was that when Gary and his fellow contributors created it and developed it, there's so much empty space. It's not so tightly designed. It's that you can't. For example, I'm going to compare and contrast it to Forgotten Realms, okay? Where Forgotten Realms has so much written about it, every blade of grass is detailed. You know where everything is, and so therefore it's kind of sometimes hard to shoehorn ideas into there. That's not the case at all with Greyhawk. Greyhawk is a framework in which you can insert adventures very easily. You can move things around as you wish. It's just so it's the perfect blend between being loose and developed that allows for player and DM agency and imagination to drive the bus of the game.
It's well said.
Thank you.
Excellent. Leonard, what do you think about what makes Greyhawk your own? We know that one. We know just the locations.
Well, yeah, well, of course, I was Chicago and he was Lake Geneva, so I didn't play in his game, per se. We went there to play on a sand table. We did that quite a number of times. But I found Greyhawk is very easy to just interject stuff. And speaking of Radic, that was also Carlos, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Leomund@AOL.com. Send me a letter so I get your email, and I'll send you the Radic adventure I just did.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
And it also has a town involved. And Anna has put it on one of her maps.
It's on the
Leia.
permanent
And
map
the
too.
name of the
Leia
city
Keel.
escapes me at the moment, but I just
Leia
did all
Keel.
of that, John.
Yep.
So it's in northern Radic. It's almost near the whichever barbarian is right next to it. It's up on the north side. I don't know where in Radic you are.
Fantastic. Yeah, I'm over on the coast. I'm almost all the way at the southern edge.
Okay.
Cool.
Well, of course, I published a bunch of junk in World of Greyhawk. L1 through 5, 4 and 5 are on Dragon's Foot, and they're free. And I have a lot of rulings and house rules in there. I still play Edition 1. I know that may sound barbaric, but I do.
Carlos, two
And
places first.
I play Edition 1 with bits and pieces of Edition 2. And I've added all of the Unearthed Arcana spells. Here and there I've adjusted.
There it is. The delve.
Yeah.
There's the.
So,
there's the from the silver edition box set that is so expensive now.
Yeah, that's where I just
don't go with L3.
I went to go get it.
I'll tell you the L3 ghastly story. I wrote L3. Gary lost the company. They stuck it in a filing cabinet for 20 years.
20.
And they said, gee, we're doing this thing. We got to do something new. Let's get this out. So somebody from TSR, and forgive me, I forgot who, we sat down and we brought it up to speed, because I wrote it 20 years ago, more than that, probably 35 years ago. And we brought it up to speed, and then they lost that. Then they decided to do their own version of L3. So L3 is maybe 80% mine and 20% theirs. And needless to say, they didn't consult me on any of it. But that's standard for this kind of stuff. TSR at its best and worst is miserable on doing certain things. they ran a role playing a game every year at Gen Con, and you started with 64 teams, breaking it down to 32, et cetera, all the way down. And one year I was the designer for that.
Oh my gosh.
Bob Blake did it for a number of years. So
That would have been awesome playing.
yeah, it was interesting to do. And when I decided to do L4 and 5, I put my house rules in the companions to those two pieces. So I have a lot of my explanations of why I do this, that, and the other thing. I do some things that are unrealistic and things that I don't attempt to make it a simulation. So I don't do crits. What I do is if you roll a natural 20, you roll another 20, and then based upon weapon damage that is possible, you get extra damage. Because after all, the D&D system is I hit you with a sword, I hit you with a hammer, whatever it is. I don't go for hitting you in the head. I don't go for hitting you in the arm. I don't chop your leg off. I don't do any of that junk because we tried that for a while. And after the players were walking around missing an eye, an ear, one of them couldn't speak anymore because his whole front of his face was, they got tired of that. They didn't care for that a whole shitload. So we kind of took the crit thing and went, oh, that's nice. And then, but I had two very good groups. I had the Neistel family. They really existed, by the way. I had the Neistel family, and I game mastered them. And then I had another group of players, and they were all very, very good. And we would try stuff. Like we tried to go to edition 2. We tried to do spheres of influence. We tried to do, what's the other big thing? Specialist mages. But if you've been playing for a while, and as a mage, you could cast this spell, that spell, and that spell without any bonus or subtraction. I now tell you, well, you're a specialist mage.
Oh, so I didn't have
that other stuff just went away. Well, that didn't work.
Yeah.
And the spheres of influence didn't work either. So
going for
we
first or
tried
second.
it all. I swear to God, we tried all kinds of things from edition 2. The one thing I do like from edition 2, and I've said it in numerous times, is I like what they did with the giants and I like what they did with the dragons. It was about time that those two things came up to speed. That when a giant hits you, he really knocks you in the next week.
Yeah, dragons.
And fighting a dragon is not easy.
Yeah. Too few.
You have the buffeting, you have the tail come around, you do all that wonderful stuff that isn't in edition 1.
Yeah.
So,
Before you go any further,
Who's
Jay,
next?
I want to say something to Leonard directly.
Sure.
Firstly, two things. Thank you for correcting me because my entire life I've been saying it Nistel, not Neistel. Now I know that.
Oh, Neistel, yeah.
Thank you for correcting me for that. But the second thing is this.
It's not
I published a
correcting.
module
I mean,
2 years ago called
we
Who
had-
Sits... I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to tell you that I published a module 2 years ago called Who Sits Upon the Oaken Throne. And you don't know this yet, but in the back of it's sort of a mystery module. So I used a lot of the concepts that you actually gave us in Assassin's Knot as kind of an idea of how to go about writing that. And in the back of this, I write, thanks to Leonard Lakofka for designing the original cloak of etherealness from which this module's version was inspired. So I gave you a lot of credit in this module for thank you for inspiring me and for helping me actually kind of come up with a template for what I ended up doing later.
L2 is underrated.
That's awesome.
It is an underrated module, and
It's my favorite of your modules, Len.
Yeah.
I think it's really a masterwork design.
Well, the thing that when we role played it the first time, I think it was Andrella. Andrella is the daughter, and Andrella was a player character.
with an eye.
And Andrella opened the door to her father's bedroom and looked him in the eyes. Unfortunately, there was no body below the head. So his head was just hanging there.
Yeah.
So yeah, Dad was dead, irrevocably dead because he was headless. Unless you had somebody who could resurrect. And we had nobody who was what is it, an 18th level cleric that can finally cast?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy level for
Yeah, it
7th level
is.
cleric.
It's crazy level.
16th.
16th.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I think so. I think it's
Maybe.
16th. I just dropped a die.
I'll look when somebody else starts talking about it. But anyway, so that's enough babbling for me. Go ahead. Who's next?
Sorry, I hit my. I went under and I had to
Leonard,
get
you can
something.
babble all night.
Yeah.
Keep going. That's okay.
Go ahead, Will.
Right. Okay.
Thanks,
So, what is making Greyhawk?
What makes you Greyhawk your own?
Well, I guess as far as one of the things that I do when I'm running Greyhawk is of course, I change things. I mean, that's what we're talking about, right? In general.
Sure. Yeah.
Basically, one of the things that I do is I don't have. I'm not ever afraid. I mean, there's changing NPCs, the bad guys and things along these lines, but I will change. I change the history a lot and different things, and I'll like move some different things around. Pretty much, there's only a couple of few things that I have that, and it's just my preferences for is whereas I stamp it like the Cataclysm, and then I have the Greyhawk Wars, and then because all the stuff that I run takes place after that, but I will change things around as far as the history and what have you. Like, for example, in Bone March, where I'm doing it right now, I have the history and the integration of the Flan and the Iridians, and then Sewell, some sprinkling of Sewell through the Barbarians and whatnot. And then I've made up my own timeline with this and all the NPCs that I've created and whatnot. And again, it's the same thing with empty spaces on the maps. You've got basically there's a timeline of what things that have happened, but those it's like point 1 is current year 5, point 2 is current year 105. There's like 100-year gap in between. You could do all kinds of different things that you want within that time frame with it. So that's probably my biggest thing as far as what I change as far as when I make something basically my own. I change everything though, so
which is good. I mean, that's what it's there for. That's absolutely, definitely the case. All right, John, this is maybe an interesting one for you since you're just starting out.
No, it's fun and it's easy, Jay. By the way, I do have to apologize. It is Father's Day.
Yep,
The aforementioned Atari shirt was a Father's Day gift. I'm gonna have to drop in a minute, but I am just so honored to be here. And look, Greyhawk. I'll tell you what makes it my own. One, it's the first campaign world I ever played in. So when I was a kid, this is what I got introduced to. There's so much nostalgia for me, re-immersing myself in this game world. But then rediscovering this vibrant community, Greyhawk Online, Cannon Fire, Orth Journal, Will, Carlos, Anna, Leonard, just all these incredible folks that are making this world so vibrant. That's been fantastic for me. What I love about the game world, though, if I come back to, what I believe the entire goal of my work is, the alloy of the OG gaming with new technology, new players. I call 5e the gateway drug. I've got so many players that are coming into D&D because they got introduced by 5e, which is more accessible, simpler systems. It reminds me, frankly, of the old red and blue box stuff, the old days of basic and expert D&D, which were a little bit more accessible to players. And so I have so many players, if you look all the Greyhawk Awakening campaign players I have, all of them are either new to D&D, but they're all brand new to Greyhawk. And so I have players who are 5e, they're Gen Z, they've only played 5e, and as they're learning about Greyhawk, they're getting so excited about the lore and the richness and the history of the game. In fact, I've got one over my shoulder here. Wave. This is my 9-year-old. She already has her Greyhawk character ready to go.
Nice.
And I'll be up in a minute.
Good job, Dad. Good job.
She loves so to me, it's about this incredible. You can go back up. Thank you, sweetheart. I appreciate you coming down. It's about this incredible set of lore that you can work around. But as said by Carlos earlier, there are these gorgeous spaces in the lore that a DM can work in. So for me, I'm very cautious about things which are overly canonized and I feel restricted. So I run a fourth age Lord of the Rings campaign. And you can guess why I chose the fourth age, because it's less strictly canonized. The Silmarillion, the Children of Hurin, there's some stuff out there from Tolkien, but there's a lot of gray area that a DM can play in. I don't want to feel overly prescripted in what I'm running. And to me, Greyhawk, it has the best balance of this deep, rich lore, decades and decades of content back, into the original chainmail stuff, through all the Dragon Magazine content, into the new stuff, but also these gigantic open spaces of content for us to just fill and create as lore. So I just think it is the most immersive. I've got, again, these 5e players, like I'm literally giving you comments I've gotten in the last 2 weeks from 22-year-old, 25-year-old players who've only played 5e, Eberron, and they're coming into Greyhawk. They're buying the old Greyhawk books. They're buying the content off eBay, and they're blown away by the richness of the lore. It is the best palette to me for a DM to create from.
Awesomely said, John, and thank you for hopping on. I know it's a Father's Day event going on at your house, so I really appreciate you coming on. Do you have a question you want to ask everyone that we'll do next? If you, while you're off, I could take that. If you have.
No, I'll stay on for another minute or two, but
Okay.
I just think for everyone, I'd like to know what's most exciting for you as we see. You've got Wizards of the Coast is sort of distancing a bit, or it's a bit confusing where Greyhawk is going. But what's happening in the Greyhawk community that's most exciting to you? I think that would be one of my questions.
Great.
Virtual Greyhawk Con.
We'll see. All right, so John, we'll have Brian answer both. How's that sound,
Okay.
Brian? You got
Like
two
it.
to answer. We'll have Anna
Brian?
answer both.
Yeah, no, I'll have to say, just getting involved in all of this because, I'm the Greyhawk newbie and all that
He's
kind of stuff.
antisocial.
I'm not antisocial.
That was a joke.
Oh, yes, the guy that helped you run a guild of 400 people's antisocial.
Yeah, I
That's-
know. World of Warcraft. We're kidding.
So
I was kidding.
no, just getting things out there, seeing what everybody else does, and all that kind of stuff. There, it's interesting to see because beforehand I never messed with D&D streams until Jay started doing it, and then I was like, all right, well, guess I got to throw my buddy a bone here and tune in every now and then. So, so it's just interesting and it's fun to see all that kind of stuff. This may be an unpopular opinion, but to me, Greyhawk is not about the land everybody's kind of hit on it. Like everybody's deep into the lore and the lore is really great. To me, like you could take that lore and place it anywhere and you still have Greyhawk. Like to me, the land can be whatever shape you want. You can pick and choose and snip and cut and reconfigure and terraform all you want, as long as you keep the bones, which I think is the lore. And even then, I don't keep the lore intact.
No,
I tried to manipulate and go beyond. Like I can't tell you what year it is in my campaign because I don't know what year it is in my campaign. We just have fun with it. I can tell you it is about 40 years after the Tomb of Sakatha because that's what I said earlier. All right, night, sweetheart.
Right.
For what I do that makes it mine is I take that lore that's existing. I take the deity system and I kind of extrapolate on that and try to make it work for my players. I don't run old modules. No offense to any creators of old modules, but I do take the information that's in those modules and I try to update the what happened since that module. So I'll look canonically. I'll take a look and see like, oh well, what's canonically supposed to happen at the end of this module, and then how can I spin that to make it so that it's already happened. Because some of my players have done some of these older modules, and yes, it's always fun to replay some of them. I'm just much more comfortable with winging it and developing and twisting. And Leonard, I got to tell you, we just finished up a short little alteration of what was it? Baltron's Beacon, and there was a deceased wizard who was Liamon's failed apprentice. And was attempting to take over somebody else's body to get revenge on the Amon, but didn't realize that the Amon has since retired and hasn't really been around for some time. And so it was just a little fun
A little
gag, I
ode
guess.
there, Leonard. Yeah. We should ask, did Liam ever have an apprentice?
Not that I know of.
Oh, you did now.
That was a good one.
But,
That's awesome.
I've been accused of many things that I didn't have any say so in.
Yeah, I know. That's kind of hard when you get to that level, and the corporation takes everything over.
I'm still playing in the years 576 and 577. To me, the Greyhawk Wars have never happened.
Yeah, well, that's a lot. There's a lot of people. That's why Anna made the 576 map. I mean, for that reason.
Back to the everybody wanted it. That was the.
So Anna, why don't you answer those two questions if you could?
Okay, yeah, it's a very for me. I now I got a little bit of chance to think about it, but for me, 4 reasons that I kind of stuck with Greyhawk and love it. And one is that it was the first one I fell in love with, so to speak. It was simply timing. I started gaming a couple of years before it came out. I was a fresh new gamer looking for a game world to make my own, and I opened the box and I was hooked. So that was simply timing. That was the first one. It was the only thing around at the time that was that type of product. So that I simply fell in love with it. And the second reason is I've been lazy. So once I've got to do it, I didn't study the other ones that much to begin with. So I just stuck with Greyhawk simply out of laziness. So that's reason number 2. Reason number 3, I think it's simply because it's just like so many of you, like Carlos and others have said, it has enough open space and room to breathe. So you can insert your own stuff, you can tweak it, and so on. So I kept doing that over the years, and so that's reason number 3. Reason number 4, I think, is very, very important. It's that it's so damn good. It's so well written, and the content, what is there and what's come out over the years, have been so fantastic, at least in my opinion, for me, for my own personal use in my campaign. So I've seen no reason to move on to any other pastures, so to speak. So I've kept doing it. I've played in many other game worlds, and I usually prefer as a player to play in other game worlds. Jay and a few other gamers. Now I'm starting to play in other DMs who are really into Greyhawk as much as me, and that's when I love it. So
like last night.
I've been exactly that's why that's when I love to have it. Yeah.
And Anna, you're too humble because you also played because you are the patron saint of Greyhawk, as acknowledged by everyone. So,
well, I try to be its cartographer, so to speak. So try to figure out what the landscape looked like. So I have a little niche in kind of interpret it, so to speak. So I've taken one little area and it started with me just wanting to do a map for my own campaign world, and then the internet came around and it kind of things just took off from there. So that's those are the main reasons that I think I've stuck with Greyhawk.
That's fantastic. So Jay, I'm gonna have to drop, but I just want to say again, I want to say thank you.
No problem.
Listen to this incredible panel.
You're welcome. You're welcome back.
So excited to be part of the community, and I'm absolutely with everything that's been said, Brian. I'm with you. Like even the old modules that I do, they're updated, they're modified, they're customized to make the world alive for my players. And I'm just really excited to be part of this community. Thank you for everybody that's followed the channel. Thank you for all the creators of content. Thank you to Jay, Anna, Leonard, all of you. Much appreciated. Happy Father's Day to all the dads and all the children of dads, which is all of us, I guess. And everybody have a great night.
John, you're welcome back in 3 weeks, July 12th, the 100th Gabbin. It'll be like a 4 or 5 hour show. You can just hop on.
I'll be on that, and I won't need to bounce early for that one.
That sounds good, man. Okay.
All right. Bye.
John. That's in 3 weeks because we're going to take off July. We're going to take July 5th off for Gabbin to celebrate.
I was going to say about Greyhawk in general. You know, you read the paragraph about any portion of it, and maybe it's 200 words, maybe, but it's rich. It's it's got stuff in it, but it's just a skeleton. Mm-hmm. Now you can do whatever you want with it. You can add towns wherever you damn well feel like. You just do it. And you draw a map and you say, well, this is here and this is here and this is there. They show you maybe the 4 principal towns or cities in a particular country or province. And then you realize there must be another 50 or 60 enclaves in that area. So all you do is just start adding stuff.
Mhm.
It doesn't hurt anything.
Absolutely correct.
And it gives the players a lot to do.
You're absolutely correct, 100%. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what I've done since the early '80s. Before, all I had was a glossography. And Carlos, you know this. When we first started playing, we didn't have a Free City Greyhawk box set. We had nothing really, just that glossography. You know, and that we had to go off of that Darlene map. It's well pre-Anna, you know, and it's wide open. You know, you could add
I was
some-
so young when I first started getting Greyhawk stuff that access to a lot of the material wasn't there for me. I didn't have the cash to do it, and I was playing travel team at the time too, so I was bouncing around a lot as a kid. So what I would do is I would read all the stuff that was implied through stuff like the Player's Handbook and the Dungeon Master's Guide, and I would be trying to piece it together. I think that was the thing that hooked Greyhawk to me, is that I was forced to put all these elements together and try and figure out how they all interacted and they worked, so that when I finally did get the box set or the folio for the first time, I was like, oh wow, okay, so this is how all this fits together in this puzzle. And it blew my little mind, of course, when I first got it. I was like, wow, this is definitely exactly what I've always wanted. And of course, you put these pieces together as a young man, and it was way better than anything I could have imagined. So
it was, I agree 100%. Hey, Ballfriend, good to see you on the show.
That's like the difference between what makes a good and a great dungeon master, right? When you can take all this like story and when that's presented, and you go, oh, that's really good, I really like that, and it just kicks your own imagination into gear, and then you go from there and you do something else with it. One of the big reasons, like when I change things because if you play with players that have been playing for a while, they know too much. So you change things on purpose. You know, it could be, like I always say, one of the simplest things to do is, yeah, that dragon is green, and he just breathes fire on you. You know, just a little simple change like that. You know, like I haven't done it in Greyhawk because I don't want to totally lose my players, because they're kind of by the books guys to an extent. But I in my homebrew, all the dragons are green. Good, bad, neutral, doesn't matter. One of the changes I just made when we came over, and I've been spotlighting goblins in the Bone March, is there are no goblins, hobgoblins, bugbears. There's just all these different sizes of goblin. You know, there's different goblins that have different types of smarts and what have you, and not all the goblin groups or enclaves are bad or evil or any of these different things. And it's one of those things, changing it up and making it fresh, but yet I didn't change any of the stats.
Right.
I just said these goblins are basically human size. Those goblins are about 3 foot tall. That goblin, well, he's 10 feet. So, you know, it's like.
By the way, Will, your comment about green dragon, somewhere out there, Rob Kuntz is smiling.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, you doing that, and it'll upset your players at first if they're like way into, like, you know, they know everything, and then afterwards they'll be like, you know, you can tell that they enjoy the fact that it was what it was, and you threw them for a loop.
So let me real quick say, for me, what makes Greyhawk my own and the community, well, of course, it's this. I mean, we got our own organization that I started when I was a kid in 1980. I mean, it's just crazy, and then it just developed that way. That doesn't mean, though, that I couldn't absorb some of the published sources into our game, which we did a lot of it. You just have to pick and choose a little bit more, and but I could run crossovers with Will, Carlos, Nightheart Gaming, Praetor's Rejects. We did all that because it doesn't really matter what time frame you're in either. It's like things can meld together. And we, you know, that fundraiser event we all did, we raised $2,500, all of us. I mean, that's the thing, and that's what I'm excited about with community is that we all can work together and do things for a common goal. And that's my idea for creating, and everyone helping me out with this virtual Greyhawk Con. Everyone get everyone together. We got 10 guys streaming channels already participating. That says something. We're 4 months away. We have 10 channels that are already officially in to participate. And Mike, we got Art, we got Mike Disney. Anna's doing a seminar on her campaign, and we're all going to be running games and having fun. I can't wait. It's going to be a blast. So I'm excited about the future. Who wants to throw a question up there? Leonard, you got a question for everyone? Well, Brian's got one. Go ahead, Brian.
What did everybody prune? Like, what's the main thing that you're like?
Oh, Leonard had to leave.
That's just.
I think that was his wave goodbyes.
Yes. Hey, we get Leonard for about 45 minutes a show when he hops on Legends Lore or Gabbin. You got to say, guys, we're blessed that a legend. It's almost Gary Gygax hopping on the show. I mean that legendary. It's close. I mean, Leonard is the elder spokesperson. Probably what Jim Ward and he were close.
Yeah.
That's about it's fantastic. So
Clearly, he memorized teleport today.
Yes. Yeah. He just. Yeah.
That's it. Bloop bloop.
So it was nice to have him on. So I apologize, Brian. What did you say about pruning?
Yeah. So come on, we all have some aspect that we said,
you know what? Question.
This is not coming in my Greyhawk.
Oh, that's easy.
I can answer that for myself. Anything west of the Flyness that has been published, I abhor so far. I've absolutely abhorred it. So, and that includes the Greater Greyhawk map, the Dungeon Annual map. I rebuke that as a falsification made by merchants who are trying to protect their own trade routes and things like that. So, it's for me. I very much dislike the way that they have developed the world map outside of that, and Western Greyhawk in western part of Orth in particular.
I've got one. Anna, you'll like this, and it's pruning out something that was done. It's not anything big, but I pruned out the Horn Society being totally done away with. I didn't say that the Horn Society's lands weren't taken. Right. And the article that's coming up in the Orth Journal, that's the article that's in there, which talks about it, it all talks about how the Horn Society was prepping to become a secret organization out of the spotlight anyway, so that they could take care of and do their business. I mean, the only reason the Horn Society even really got found is because IU's got thrown in jail, according to the lore. So they rolled in, and it's like, all right, cool. Well, if nobody's going to be here, and like none of the neighboring good countries were like, hey, why don't we go in and and stomp out all that evil that's over there? Nobody did that. So the Horn Society just kind of like it fell in their lap. And I think basically when Ayus comes back and he's like, that's kind of mine. There were some parts of the Horn Society that were like, yeah, we didn't want to really be doing this gig anyway. So basically like a completely different version of the Scarlet Brotherhood.
Oh,
and that's
yes, please.
That's something that I cut out of the canon was they're just dissolvement altogether. So
you got me going now. See,
wait until I start talking about vampires.
Oh no, we're not. Josh is not on tonight, so we're not going to start with that the Thrummel vampire thing again for the 400th time. But Greyhawk Mike agrees with me. Scarlet Brotherhood does not take over the Hold of the Sea Princess. I'm sorry. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. Pruning also. I kind of see the points on the Horn Society, but I use the Free Reavers up there instead now. So I kind of let that go. I may have them come back. I'm not sure about that, but I really dislike. And I know Carlos and I differ a little bit than this. I really dislike all the characters they kill off From the Ashes. That drives me crazy. They killed a lot off of really great personalities. And I know for the storyline it works, but it was just like that, and they were gone. And there was no. If there was a story like a module or an adventure discussing it, would be different. But they're just like dead. I was like, So that's kind of my thing. So But then
For what it's
again,
worth, Jay, I can actually, I don't necessarily disagree with you that they should have gotten a little bit more. They should have gotten less short shrift than that. They deserved a better
yeah,
end.
yeah.
I just think that it's natural that there's casualties of war.
Sure.
If they wanted to go in that direction with the campaign and move forward with Greyhawk Wars, then killing people has got to happen. It's
They
gotta
just
happen.
killed all the ones I loved.
Yeah, but they introduced. But think about
That's-
this. Though,
that's
too, at
really
the same
it.
time. They
It's like-
introduced a lot of characters
Be back
that
in
you
just a
love
second.
too, like Bladestorm.
Oh yeah. Oh, I love. I mean, hey, you're gonna see Bladestorm Thursday night.
I know, but
Norwell.
I'm name checking her in specific to illustrate my point.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
know you love
You're
that
right.
character, and we wouldn't have her if it wasn't for the Greyhawk
That-
Wars.
I agree 100%. And we had this discussion on the Gygaxian era on Legends and Lore and the From the Ashes Sergeant era. I like about 90% of what they did in From the Ashes. Really, I think it's very, very well done. And Sergeant, I mean, and Anna will say, Iva the Undying, Anna believes is the best publication ever
Oh,
made,
that
right?
one, I love
And that's
that.
She's
Sergeant.
correct.
You know,
She's correct. It
fantastic.
is.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
and I love the Marklands, I love Eye is the Evil, and I love the
Yep, me too.
Slavers, and I love
Mhm.
all this stuff in this era. But there's just a couple things. You know, I would like to prune a couple things,
Mhm.
and so I did. And the other thing, all right, if Casey's on, I mean no offense by this. They wreaked havoc in Living Greyhawk every time we get a. They wreaked havoc. I was like, oh my god! So they destroyed Narwhal. If it turns out, I was like, when did what? They destroyed what's her name, Karstein. They wiped her off the face of the earth. I was just like, oh my god.
Jay, as you know, I'm with you there. I ignore the Living Greyhawk stuff.
Right.
And again, that's no disrespect to the creators
Right.
that made that, and it's no disrespect to the fans there. The fact is, it's not accessible to me as a judge,
True.
as a DM. I can't use it, so I'm not gonna even attempt to do the research on that and integrate it.
I agree 100% with you on that. So I meant that as a little bit of a bust on them because if you watch those games, they are the most paranoid, crazy people. I mean, Joe Selby especially. They think that like. I just don't even know what they think. They think everyone is evil. And I was like, oh my God, what kind of campaign? You know, no one has good
The Bandit
intentions.
Kingdoms, it's tough.
How many of them are from the Bandit Kingdoms? Two of them,
Just
right?
2 of them, yeah.
Oh
Just
yeah,
two.
but that's
there you
enough
go.
to,
That's enough to make everybody else
exactly.
paranoid.
That's
2
how
are from
you survive-
divers.
Yeah, that's how you survive
Wow,
the
what
BK.
is-
Is yeah.
Oh my
It's so
God.
bad
What
that
should
you
I
have
walk
to.
back into? Man,
Oh,
this
we're
is
just talking about Living Greyhawk, and hey, it's great. It was a great era. I mean, the camaraderie during that era is unbelievable. It's the size of some of these conventions that we hear about. So, how about you, Anna, on pruning?
Pruny, I agree with Carlos that the what's published for the rest of Earth, all Zindia and all that crap. No, for me it's like no, I totally agree. But the exception is the geography itself. The layout of the continent is something I think I can work with. But the actual content, I like the idea of one huge continent like that.
Anna,
And
I'm
then-
surprised at that. I thought that you didn't like that.
Well, I didn't. It's a cartographer's nightmare because from a cartography standpoint, it's terribly difficult. But I like the challenge of it. So in the beginning, I was like, I want to divide it up and whatnot.
Love
but,
to hate, sort of thing.
yeah, exactly. So it's a challenge. I'm now, and it probably delayed my getting into mapping Earth by 5 years simply because it's so large. But on the other hand, it opens up so many awesome possibilities because the sheer size of that continent means that you can have badlands, deserts, and a lot of cool stuff that is not in the Flanese. There is like an enormous amount of land to play with that you can do awesome stuff with, and that potential of that is kind of awesome. You can have wildernesses that have all sorts of awesome stuff in it, and it will only take up, meaning we have the former Great Kingdom, that's like 2% of the Western Earth or something like that. And so, or maybe just 1%. So there's like so much space to play with. So I know that you can't really do anything with the whole thing, but so that's one of the things that I will not use. So my approach to do the rest of the planet is to try and do the terrain canvas and leave it at that. and then let people simply put whatever they want on that canvas and paint whatever picture they want out of it. That will be my approach, so to speak, and gradually kind of make the terrain for it. But that so the rest of the world politically and the countries and stuff, that is something I will prune out of my game. The other thing that will have to go is the barrier peaks and the androids and the spaceships. That no way, that's not in my campaign. No gunpowder, no spaceships, no androids, no whatever.
How about Merlin? Will you let Merlin use it?
No, I will simply, they can be some sort of wand, but I will not use it. I will not think of it in scientific terms and kind of real terms, so to speak. So what it actually is, meaning an iron golem is kind of a magic android. So yeah. So, but I will use the fantasy thinking of it and then skip it. So that's something I will prune. But otherwise, I don't think I will prune anything. I will just tweak it in the margins, because it's like with Sargent's work. I like 80-90% of what it did was fantastic, and all the descriptions and the factioning and the political intrigue and stuff, I love that. That was exactly what I wanted to infuse me with, like, oh, I love Greyhawk. So I take probably 80-90% of it, and then I'll tweak it 1 or 2 or 3, 4 steps forward, so to speak, and then I build my campaign from that. So now I'm like, what is it, like 7 years after the Living Greyhawk campaign? And same thing with Living Greyhawk. I've taken a bunch of locations. Some of them are so bad that they ended up on the public map, but the worst of it I didn't even put on the public version of the map. But because Living Greyhawk spans everything from fantastic Greyhawk content to absolutely horrible things, probably made by someone who never read the original books at all. That doesn't fit. That is more like an excuse for a prank or something like that. So it spans the whole range, meaning we have masters like Eric Mona and Jason Boldman and others that have written awesome great content that wrote for Living Greyhawk campaigns. So there's some masterpieces there, but it also something that was written just in a haste because they needed something and no one had checked any of the precautions or done any of their homework, so to speak. So it spans the whole registry. But I've added a lot of the locations from it, but I've skipped a lot of the intrigue and stuff. So that way I'm very much like Sargent era with added Living Greyhawk places and stuff sprinkled in. That's where my campaign have ended up, so to speak.
Good answers. Does anyone up here have a question? If you don't, I have one.
Go for it.
Yeah.
One thing you do, all of you, that is completely unique to you, D&D wise. It could be style, it could be something you do in your game. I can start. Okay. I am the only DM I think I've ever seen that, number one, allows my guys to play 2 characters at once on stream wise. We mostly everyone plays 1 character. We play 2. Plus I play NPCs in the group a lot that stay with the group. I think that's unique, pretty unique to our style, and just that's the way it evolved. To I don't know, maybe some other people do it that way, but I think we're pretty unique to that. I mean, not talking about the campaign, I'm talking about like aspects of how we play. So someone else want to go?
I wear a black hat. Grindelwald.
Come on,
I'm cranking my wheels, and
you got.
No, I think for me the obvious answer for me is Fireland at this point. But because I'm writing that book, but if I had to pick something that is very unique to me, probably I would say that's probably about it. I try and be as, I have a background heavily as a convention DM. Okay. Yeah. And when you're in a convention environment, it's very important to have all the players know the rules of the game and not think that they can or can't do certain things. So you have to play a very stock game. I'm not saying that you have to be 100% raw, written as rule is written, but it helps. So I try and be as keep it as raw as I can.
Carlos, you are the purest 1E DM I know.
Mm-hmm.
Pure. That's what I would say is your uniqueness. You're pure on 1E, and that's
There you go.
yeah. I mean,
give you that.
so this is what Gaetano said in chat. Carlos keeps the familiar and makes it new.
Oh yeah, you know what?
That is, yeah, that is.
I'll go with that then too,
Yep.
because I absolutely love familiars and animal companions, and
Yeah.
I do my absolute best to make those things
Yeah.
very memorable.
Brian,
and
have a
feel
storm?
like they're real and create player attachment to them, like they're your pets.
He had a power blip. He'll be back on. He just
Okay.
so
Okay.
yeah, it was a power blip.
You got my you jogged something for me to say, Carlos. So thank you. I would say one of the things, and this is probably strictly from a Greyhawk point of view. I think that I'm probably one of the few people who is starting to incorporate a bunch of Forgotten Realms material.
Oh.
That was like power word stun that you
Power
Yeah.
kill.
It's both kind of very going against the rules, but also
Now, what I mean by that, because I know everybody just went, taking adventures that were published in for Forgotten Realms and changing them into a Greyhawk adventure.
Okay, well that's cool.
That's one of the things that I've decided that I'm going to be doing going forward for the streams. Now, granted, there'll always be some portion of Sandbox because I prefer Sandbox, although Sandbox, none of my players are watching, so I can talk. Sandbox really depends on your players. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And
definitely.
and when I started off with doing the Bone March, I took the Essentials kit.
Here he comes.
Just about everything that I've run to this point was from the Essentials kit that I transformed and placed within the Bone March and for Greyhawk. Now, they just pretty much ran out of all that material. And so like the last 2 episodes, especially the last episode, I'm like, remember how I told you guys this is Sandbox now, right? Well, now's your time. So start
That's awesome.
going out there. Yeah, but everything prior to that, a lot of the setup, like I'm using the dragon from that cryo vein is in the Bone March, but it's connected to a whole lore package that one I've made up and then is tacked on to different Greyhawk lore.
Nothing wrong with that, man. If the content's good, repurpose it.
I figured they take all the good stuff from Greyhawk and smash it into Forgotten Realms. No reason I can't just do the reverse, right?
There.
Well,
Yeah,
one thing I
absolutely.
really like about your game, having watched your stream a lot, is that I love you have a very good knack for keeping your players engaged. And even when you've got the party in different places and everybody's doing different, really separate things, you manage to keep everybody on the same page and very well locked in the story. I never look at your players and see these blank board faces. And I think it's a tough thing to do for DMs. And I'm not saying that that's unique to you per se, but I think it's something that you really, among us streamers, you have a really good knack for.
Well, thank you. I try. It's my version of juggling.
So, Brian, you haven't answered this one yet.
Yeah. So things that I do that is unique
Oh,
to me.
come on. I mean, you got some stuff.
Well, yeah.
You
so
told us
first-
about 5 things that blew me away already that
Yeah,
I couldn't believe that
tell-
you even did.
I don't think Carlos has ever heard what you do with priests, with deities.
Dude, it's all about my sweat, steel, and sex appeal is what it is.
And that you got that in spades going on.
I do. I mean,
He's a
come on,
silver
Silver
fox.
Fox got it. Yeah.
That's the only reason I'm on. I knew Brian was gonna be here.
Hey, here's the thing: like, I'm more gray than you, and you got a few years on me based on your D&D stories.
Yes.
So, yeah.
I'm ashamed of being the least pretty person here.
Oh, you just
What are you
hiding
talking
it.
about? Jay's here.
Like I said, I'm the least pretty person here.
Love you, Jay.
It's okay. My wife told
Did
me
you
that
see?
today.
You should post up that picture from when was it where you guys were at the Renaissance?
Oh, Tim, I'll do that as Brian's talking from
You
last
should
week.
post that up. There's some handsome people right there. Let me tell you.
And the ever mysterious Tim is in this, and Walt are both in this picture. So, go ahead, Brian. I'm sorry.
So I want to hear this about priests, Brian.
So no, it's not about priests,
It's
because here's the
ultimate,
thing,
yeah,
like
yeah.
one of the big things that always gets me is you're in this world that gods are proven to exist, and there's not a lot of tie to divinity. And so Jay, I'm sure it's kind of probably talked about it or alluded to it tonight already when I was off, who knows. But I do a very if you are a follower of any divine being, you get a follower benefit. These are all very, very light and flavorful. So you get a mechanical benefit, and you get a role play aspect. Um, and so, like with that, I love systems. I love developing that kind of stuff. But I didn't want it. I wanted it to be a reason why people would be following a divinity and like have like a something to show for following said divinity, uh, and then also kind of has some aspects to it. Uh, I know it's kind of stereotyping, but what I did was I took a look and I read what the deity was about. I then kind of cut that up into like a main aspect that I think their followers would have, and then something that their god would probably uh, gift somebody who's a follower of them, some sort of little benefit. Good example, we have a couple followers of Paylor in my guild, in my game.
Yep.
And so this is 5e, so it's all based around 5e. Paylor, you get the you can call it a trait, you can call it a personality, you can call it a flaw, but you get a defiler of necromancy. So if you see necromancy, you're going to do whatever you can to destroy that undead, as well as a practitioner of those necromantic arcs. And additionally, as a bonus action, once a long rest. Long rests are not a day for me. A long rest is, I take the 5th edition Lord of the Rings long rest structure where you got to have your creature comforts. So once per long rest, as a bonus action, you can heal 2 hit points to a creature. And so this could be that you could be a fighter and have this. You could be a rogue. As long as you're a follower of Paylor, you get this. And then because it's tied to 5th edition, whenever your proficiency bonus goes up, that bonus goes up. So at level 5 becomes 4, 9 it becomes 6, and so on.
It's a cool thing. So Stolok asked, what state Cuthbert's?
St. Cuthbert's. Jay, here, I'll link the page here real quick. The other thing is, like, I put down
There you go.
with the deities, there's kind of because there's some ties to it. I didn't want somebody to pick a deity just because it mechanically sounded like it would go well with them. The rules are that if you are any of the green alignments that match up with that god, you can pick it without a question. The yellow ones, you can still pick it, but you might want to have a good reason why. The reds are not out of the question. Always you have these gods that might choose just because they don't follow their ideology. Maybe they're the best tool for the job, and so maybe a god's willing to make an exception to show favor to somebody. St. Cuthbert, if I remember, is one of my favorite adjustments here. No, it's not. I was lying. St. Cuthbert is, I was thinking of, I think, Kellenen. When you make a saving throw, you can increase the result by 1. You can see that you can do that after the dice is rolled and you see the result, but not before I say you passed or failed.
Interesting.
So, and that goes up by 1 every time you'd have a update.
That chart, I was just looking at it just a second ago. That thing is really dope, but I'm curious about. There's so many Greyhawk deities out there. Is this a living document that you plan on expanding, or is this something just that this is all you're interested in?
No. So what I did because I did Forgotten Realms for a long time. So when Jay talked me into converting to Greyhawk, I took a look at what Forgotten Realms or what the PHB had in it for 5th edition. I took those and then I sent the list to Jay and Bill the Crafter, and I said, guys, tell me which ones I'm missing. I don't want to go hog wild.
Okay.
But if there's ones that you think that are key here, let me know. And then I let my players know as well. If there's somebody that you're interested in lore-wise that it's not on there, let me know. I'll read up on it and I'll get you what it is there. We actually have one guy who, he loves mechanics and his character is purposely atheist, like just mechanically. He doesn't think that any of these gods are truly gods. We have a follow of Cord, He's our halfling barbarian, and as always, Cord gives you a bonus on your advantage or your athletic checks. Let me see here. I wanted to read Kellenan's. I think Kellenan was the one I was.
So, but that
Yeah.
is Brian should have this out as a source book on DM's Guild. You know, it should seriously. This
Yeah.
is such unique 5e Greyhawk based kind of like Joe Block stuff.
But
Perfect.
realistically, you could take this. Here's the thing: like, I try to make it pretty agnostic. Yes, it's tailored to the gods, but anybody could do this. Kellenan's real quick here. This is one of my favorite ones. It's called Kellenan's Power Shift, because Kellenan is all about bringing balance. So, in order to preserve life, there must be balance. When deciding your actions, you're likely to act in favor of what brings true balance. But because there's this whole balance here, Kellenan's Power Shift. Sadly, we don't have a follower of Kellenan, but as a bonus action, you can subject yourself to a -1 on any die roll. That could be in a damage roll. It could be a d20 roll. You can just take a -1 to that. And then before your next turn, you can grant a friendly creature within 30 feet of you a +1 to any die roll.
In reverse. Yeah.
That's
Pretty
Yeah.
cool.
So you're
There's a
taking a penalty.
mechanic that reminds me of in the 3.5 rule set for the Fate Spinner.
Mhm.
That prestige class,
And the
as said by the Reverend of Istus.
yeah.
We
Yeah.
had this here. We had a Ouija follower, but they left.
It's Ouija. Well, Leonard's gone now.
No.
So it's
Yeah.
Nistel, not Nistel. After all these
Yeah.
years,
Nice.
That just changed my life.
just so we know Ouija is pronounced Ouija, and Nistel is Nistel, and Ius, and it's pretty amazing. But the uniqueness to Brian's 5e Greyhawk campaign, and hey, Carlos and Will knows this because Will plays in the game, and Anna does too. It's the only 5e game I've ever played in.
I love what he's done there because he's kept the Greyhawk flavor
Yep.
alive in it. Yet it's mechanically very it's sound and it's variant. It's very cool. I like it. I think it's really neat.
Appreciate it. The other
Yeah,
thing I
no problem,
do is this is not, once again, it's tied to Greyhawk in the naming, but realistically, you could, when I developed it, you could take this list and plop it into any world and just change the names of the herbs and you're good. I have this wonderful herb list because we had a player that was really wanting to get into herb and potion making and that kind of stuff. And sadly, that player stopped, but other people are talking about showing an interest in it.
There it is.
Part
Part of it.
of it. There's all sorts of, I created all sorts of herbs. There's a component, there's like, if you consume it raw and it's a poultice, if you smoke it, if you ingest it as a tea, if you turn it into a potion or a poison or this or that and the other thing. I have the master list. I can share it to folks. I don't think I have the master list out there. I have the list that our players can see. But like there's one like Ralashaz's herbs. That one's just out there crazy.
Yeah, it's great, unique content.
I don't think this is unique to me, but I'm going to say this because Brian brought up the thing about the gods, and he might have an interest in this. In my particular online game that I'm doing right now for a First Betrayal, one of my player characters came across this ancient temple, and they found out that it was actually dedicated to the worship of Hades and Persephone, Greek gods.
I like it.
They came over from they were swept through a portal because they were chased. They had a magic item that was sacred to another faith. But what's happened is that they're starting to restore this temple because they think they're glorifying the gods, or they're trying to, show respect. But what's ended up happening is the eyes of the Greek pantheon now have fallen upon Oerth. And the gods of Oerth are coming to the other players in the game and saying, through their intermediaries, and saying, hey, listen, you need to stop this right now.
Right.
Because if we're not going to let another pantheon come into this, into our continuum and take our followers, especially somebody as powerful as Zeus. Are you out of your mind? We're introducing this whole wide spanning thing where the gods are actually taking a real, I've always liked, one of the Greyhawk's biggest strengths is its gods. I always felt like the deities, like Brian said, the deities are so amazing in it. But one of the things they don't really do is a lot of times I don't think we use them enough in direct interaction with the players. And my conceit with this game is a little bit, we're actually taking a direct hand back and forth now, the gods and the player characters, thanks to this one choice that they've made, which is just crazy.
So I got to say, just to
I love
read
that, Carlos.
one of my favorite herb combinations, because for Radishaz, I want to do an herb for him, and it's really, really random. Each time you do it, it's a random. Like other ones, the effects are reproducible. You hit a glory ball brawl, you're going to restore 1d2 hit points. You know, Radishaz, you can get any of the things randomly, and one of them is if you had a wound and you take Radishaz's herb, you could end up with 1d20 times your level copper, or sorry, 1d100 times your level of copper pieces shooting out from the wound.
Nice.
So,
What's that? There's a wand that is like random.
Wand of Wonder.
Wonder.
Wand of Wonder. Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
And it's like, oh, here, have a bunch of gems.
You get butterflies everywhere,
Yeah.
or whatever. Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right, so this is up to, and I have to note this just for comedy's sake. Here's Brian's thank you on his Obsidian Portal page. A huge thank you to the fantastic map of Greyhawk used in the background that was created by talented Anna Meyer. Two other
thank you.
lines, and at the very bottom, last, a grudging thanks to Jay Scott, aka Lord Kazumba, for talking me into Greyhawk. Thank you so much, Brian.
I gotta put you even further down
Awesome.
the list
Yeah.
because I still have to put all the artists that I took, like when you randomly search something on the internet and you get a icon or a picture there, I got to put them before you as well.
Yeah, thank you.
But
Thank you
I
so
have-
very much.
I will say I am working on our group just got a trade company, so I am working on some very basic trade rules,
Good.
and
That's nice.
they have a magic keep that I didn't want to mess with time and materials and all that kind of stuff, so they have a magic keep. You put 1,000 gold into the magic keep's mouth, out comes a building. And so I'm kind of working on what these buildings are, those kinds of things there, and what kind of benefit they could have. So
Awesome stuff. So I don't think Anna answered that question.
No, it's not the good thing of going last is that you get a chance to think things through a bit. So for me, I think it's two things that differs from most other games that I've played in as a player in my games. One is that I treat overland and travel different from anyone else. I have
Okay.
never played in a game that are like mine, meaning travel. I treat basically the world as a big dungeon. It's not like we go and then, okay, now it's gone 3 weeks and you're on the whatever, you're on the end of it. I travel the whole way, meaning the whole 9 yards, everywhere. And to me, I measure distance not in miles, but in number of things that happen, so to speak. So if you want to go across town, then 3 things happen. Or you see 3 different things, and you go by and say, oh, there's some new things that the blacksmith is working on some cool stuff, and then there's the new peddler in town. He's selling some weird stuff that no one have noticed before, and it smells like they're burning incense at the inn. What the hell of that new chef that is making some new contraptions in there that smells like that? Whatever. These are small little things. It doesn't need to be something you kill, but it should be or a proper encounter, but something you experience. What kind of wildlife is there, and what the landscape look like and stuff like that. So I want every square mile to be sort of memorable to some degree about the players, so to speak. So if they traveled 100 miles or 1,000 miles, it should feel like it. It taken 10 sessions and they experienced a hell of a lot. That's why we never get anywhere geographically in my campaigns, which is kind of weird since I'm mapping the whole world and we never get anywhere. So it's kind of an irony in some ways. So that I think is number one that is very different. I treat the world as a big dungeon, so to speak. The outside world is no different from going into a basement. It's just a million times bigger. The other thing that I think is different is that a lot of DMs, they look at the rules and they look at the flavor, and then they make a story, and the story is cool, and the stories have these elements, and you go from this scene to that scene to next scene and so on. That's not my approach at all. I try to figure out why is the world working as it is. It's like, okay, dragons collect treasure and they go out and kill things and they collect treasure. Why the hell is it? Are they doing that? Why are they hoarding? So then I try to figure out, okay, what's the deal with dragons? And I made this kind of long winding little article, and I put notes. It was just like 40, 50 little notes I put together. Okay, this is why the dragons hoard treasure. And why aren't there dragons everywhere? They're so damn powerful. Why haven't they taken over the world? So I have to kind of come up with biological, psychological, and magical and other limitations on dragons. And that way I know, okay, this is how dragons work. But I don't tell my players that. That's something I do in order to, okay, this is how the world works for me. And the third thing that I think is a different approach is that the traditional thing is that you want the players to be forced to think things through, meaning they have to like, okay, there's a trap, and they have to figure it out, and they come into a scene and the players have to figure everything out, and it's whatever the players can figure out to help the characters get through. That's not really my approach. I try to play as a DM for the characters more than the players. So when the characters are newbies, meaning the characters are first level or even 0 level, meaning they have no experience whatsoever, I try to explain things very rudimentary, and I don't fill in things, and they can run into things and end up in whatever mayhem and mischief and so on, because the characters have no experience. But I can't set up, let's say I have a bunch of seasoned characters that are 13, 14, 15th level. And I'm so used to, when you travel, all of a sudden the DMs tells you like, okay, you are now walking through this forest, and from 30 feet inside the forest, there are now 200 orcs coming out and attacking you. Meaning I said, no. If you are a bunch of hardened adventurers that have been through hell and beyond for years, you don't go in that forest, just go like that and let yourself be ambushed. The way I would do that, I would simply say, now you're out and there's a forest, a difference out in the distance, and the weather is like this, and I kind of sketch it out. If I don't have a detailed map, then I'll sketch it out large scale, and tell them this is what the landscape looks like, that's the forest, whatever. And then I tell the fighters, saying that, oh, that looks like one of these locations where they haven't chopped down the trees next to the road. So this one is probably not used that often by traders and others, because it's an area where you can easily be ambushed, because the fighter would understand that. Someone who's been around the character would know that. So I tell the players what the characters should know automatically without a roll or anything. So that's one of the other things. I want the player to feel the power of their high-level characters, meaning they know stuff. Their character's been around everywhere. It should be an enormous difference for the player to play a newbie character that is not dry behind their ears, or someone who's been out there almost killing gods. And so those, I think, are some of the key differences that how I do things, compared differently to when I'm playing with other DMs and seeing other people play.
Very
Jay,
cool.
I'm
I know
gonna
you
have
got to go. I know you got to
gotta go.
Okay.
Gotta
I know
get-
he's got a game.
Easy, Will.
Yeah.
Thanks,
So-
guys.
Will, I'll talk to you.
Yep.
Thank you so very much for coming on. Enjoy your game,
Yeah.
and we'll talk to you soon. See, you're going to be on in 3 weeks. You're going to try and hop on for the 100th show as
You got
well.
it. You got
that's,
it.
That's
For
all
sure.
Excellent.
Happy Father's Day, guys.
See yous.
Have a
All
good
right,
one.
bye-bye.
Bye.
Take it easy.
So down to 3, and then there were 3.
Yep.
All right.
So that was my long winding.
No, it's
thing
good.
about what
No.
was different with my games. Yeah.
Here's another question for you all, for the audience. What would you do to assist the beginning DM setting up their campaign for Greyhawk? Give them some pointers. What do you think? I know that's very vague, but because so a lot of them always come to me in posts and say, I really don't know how I should start, and I always say, pick a place, and the place that interests you, and then just you don't have to overthink it, But what do you guys think?
Yeah. Being that I went through this,
Good, yeah, that's true.
because realistically, my campaign is now just past the 1 year mark. pick a place, ask your players, sit down as a group, geography wise, pick a place and say like, what looks interesting to you? And then from there, once they pick a place, you go back and you take a week or two and just read up on these surrounding like that area. It's it's a very big area with lots and lots of just content that you could easily overwhelm yourself with.
Yeah.
And so, like I spent a month preparing for my campaign before we launched it. Like I took everything that I literally went down to the wikis, like the Greyhawk online wiki, read what I wanted, took it to my Obsidian portal, and I literally copied and pasted that wiki article, and I started cutting stuff, things that I don't want my players to worry about. And I say, boom, boom, get rid of this. This is okay. Cut it down so like everything is maybe a paragraph 2, sometimes 3 for these articles. And so that way, first off, you have a nice quick reference of what you want to focus on in your game. But second off, people can easily go and reference that. I'm not telling everybody go out and get a Obsidian portal, but you can easily do the same thing with like a OneNote or something like that.
World Anvil too, right, Anna?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, not even relying on outside campaign management tool, like something like OneNote. You could easily take those articles.
My new favorite that I've used for the past 6 months now, it's actually Notion. It's an awesome. I used Evernote and Realmworks for years. I tried World Anvil, but actually Notion is my new go-to star application with this. Yeah.
Cool.
So I'm going to show some examples both on my website and in the Facebook group, the Greyhawk with digital tools that I've started several years ago and then sadly neglected. So I'm so sorry to all the members of that
I've
group.
never joined it.
Yeah, content is coming. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Yep.
How about Carla's suggestion?
I'm gonna be most of the people that are on the chat here are following Brian's lead a little bit and talking about starting from a singular point and spreading out. So I'm going to give a little bit more generic advice, but I think it's something that I think is extremely important. And it may sound weird coming from the guy who has become known here as the 1E purist. Don't limit yourself to a single edition. And when I say that, I mean go all the way back to chainmail. Read it. Go to 1E materials, read them. Go to 2E materials, read them. Don't limit yourself just because it's not the edition you're playing. Yeah. Conceptually, there's things from every edition that are awesome that you can use. They're tools in your toolbox, and they're going to enrich your campaign greatly. Example, I don't play 5E, but just seeing what Brian's done over there has given me a lot of ideas for things that I can incorporate into a 1E campaign. Every edition does things well. They're all like tools in a toolbox or golf clubs in your bag. You're not gonna use a driver on the putting green. Okay, it's got a specific use for it. I think if you miss one of the editions, not only are you looking through a tunnel and not seeing the big picture of all the cool lore that's out there, but you're really not seeing all the cool mechanical things and the cool approaches to your game system that can enrich your own campaign.
It's an absolutely spot on point, Carlos, because
yeah,
I'll give you an example. Anna says, what's my edition, Anna? 3.25?
Well, yeah, you have your own house homebrewed 3rd edition kind of. Yeah,
because I use feats from 3rd edition melded into the proficiency system for 1st and 2nd edition. So you got it. Absolutely. I don't know if there's anything I pulled from 4th, but there's some good things that were written for 4th.
I'm sure that there's aspects of the minis rules that probably dovetail well with things that you do.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Now I want to answer that question too, and it's kind of interesting. I love both of your answers, and it's awesome, Carlos, that you went against what you normally do, and I'm going to do the same way. Normally, I don't run modules, and I'm not particularly interested in the modules for the adventure, but for the content and the places and the NPCs and all that flavor that I'm using. But I'm going to go against that and simply say I think you should run Hamlet. whatever the edition you're doing, Hamlet is a fantastic adventure that is so much old Greyhawk in nature and in content, and it's placed in a location that is fantastic. Get the PDF of the old box set, 83 box set, read that through, and then run Hamlet, and you will get a fairly quick and I would say wonderful feel for what Greyhawk can be. And then download my map and look at where Hamlet is, and then work from there. If you liked Hamlet and you like the area, and then work a little bit on the adventure and introduce kind of your own stuff here and there that fits in the picture, and then run it. If you and the players love that, then you're a perfect candidate to go on, and the world is enormous. And then you should follow what Brian and Carlos said. Then you can read from 40 years of awesome content, and you can put it in there.
No, that's
I would also suggest, if you're going to read modules and run modules, there's this dude out there that's writing these new
I was just going to say, once, yeah,
they're absolutely amazing, and you should buy
Yes.
every single one of them. I'm just kidding.
No, but that was going to be my next say, that if you liked Hamlet and like the setting, then there is that guy who written, what is it, like 17 modules now I think,
It's awesome.
that are as good as Hamlet, if not even better. Some of them are definitely better, because and that's not, it's not because Gary Gygax couldn't write modules. It's that you have to realize Carlos is making these modules with 40 years of hindsight, meaning he has the experience that no one had back in the early 80s, late 70s when Hamlet was written.
As
And
I write
that can-
modules, I
Yeah.
find myself constantly in marvel of Gary's skill, because
Mhm.
I'm working from a template. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
working from his playbook, but he's the one who invented. There were no rules when he did all this stuff.
Exactly. Yeah.
And when I look at the fact that he did all this stuff and was making this up as he went, and I look at like, okay, well, how am I going to improve this?
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I'm not, because this is about as good as it can be done.
Mhm.
And I'm in awe every time I do a new module of his
Yeah.
skill.
You have.
And I,
Go ahead.
sorry.
No, it's okay.
I was
go
just going to say, Hamlet is also a good kind of both sandbox with some kind of cool content or small locations you can go, and then you have the mode house next door that you can go and explore, and it's kind of a good little sandbox, so you can kind of run it as a canned adventure. They go from location to location and discover it, or you can run it as a free form sandbox, and it's a great, I think, introduction, simply because it's very basic and it's a location that is really set in Greyhawk with the flavor and stuff from that. A lot of the other adventures are not flavored Greyhawk as much. They are probably better and cooler and have much more cooler monsters and stuff like that. But if you want to get a feel for Greyhawk, I think Hamlet is a great start. That is simple to run, no super complicated monsters, and just an interesting plots, a lot of cool characters, lovely, cute, little, wonderful locations, and it's a wonderful, awesome introduction into the setting, I think.
And look where Blue Box is starting.
Yeah, exactly.
Hamlet.
It was so wonderful to see Ostler, the innkeeper, and he go
A
about his
lot
business
older
again.
though. He's a lot
Oh
older.
yes,
'cause,
oh yeah, he's a lot older. Yeah. Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yep.
It's really a fun. They're having a blast, which is
Yep.
great. And let me just supplement that. A lot of people don't like writing their own adventures. It's not, once you get a feel, it's not as hard as you think. And Carlos really pumps up published content for, through CSL, which is amazing. And but Brian does almost 100% own adventures, correct? On a theme.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I've tried. I will say I did updates of Tuma Sakatha and Voltron's Beacon, and those I didn't enjoy them as much because I was trying to shoehorn in my style with some of these like retro and trying to keep the flavor of. I mean, especially like, dealing with like Voltron's Beacon, like some of the monsters that like you just sit there, it's like you can tell this is an old module. Like just reading is like, oh, here's 7 trolls on the bridge, and then just beyond it, it's like here's a shambling mountain. It's like, oh man, you can tell. There's nothing wrong with that old flavor, but it's like I like uniformity. I like things that make a little sense, and that was, yeah. So we're getting into with our 1 year mark. I'm calling it like chapter 2 or whatever, where they're getting their own trade company, and they have done their first successful trade, and they have now a blacksmith who's Angris, who was a blacksmith that they freed from the Tomb of Sakata. And so there is, I'm excited to get back to doing more free form and having the players kind of guide what we're doing versus modules.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong, Carlos. Like I said, there's modules are always great. I using them for inspiration, I think, is now a more appropriate tool as you get more veteran. I will say, Greyhawk or not, if you're a DM and you're starting out, kick the save the world thing to the can. Like, kick it to the curb. Be done with it. It's tired. The players don't like it. You won't like it. It's much more fun to not have to always save the world.
Little picture is a lot more fun than big picture. I agree. But Brian, what you said is true though too. Anyone who's ever read one of my modules will notice that there's I think it's important for me to express what I'm trying to get across when I write a module. With there being no official support for Wizards of the Coast, my modules aren't, I'm not just trying to write a module when I write it. I'm actually writing a source book as well as a module. I'm trying to give you guys source material to keep the setting alive and help give it to new generations, expanding upon what's going on in the world, as well as conveying a module. So there's really two masters I'm serving there, and if it helps anybody to, if it inspires anybody in terms of a module, that's great. If it helps somebody in terms of fan and source material, that's fine too. But what you said is absolutely true. But I'm trying to give it to people on multiple levels there, where they can use it for more than one thing at once.
I would say this, and that is, some of the Greyhawk modules are so classic that if you're a beginner, you haven't run them once though. There's some that I would do. We've all run the G series. If you haven't, and you can fit that, the G through D series is just unbelievable. But if it doesn't fit your campaign, it's understandable. There are some stuff that I just say you can't pass up. Now, here's a funny thing. I try to incorporate every 2 to 5 years an adventure I've never run before. And I have one coming up within the next 3 to 4 months in my new Narwhal campaign that I've never run before. And Anna I said, Anna, I need this town here made out, and the name needs to sound similar to the other name of the town of the adventure I'm going to run. And it's going to be, low levels 1 through 4. But there's something I want to run it because I never have for my guys after 40-some years. So. And
you don't want to pop over to the Sheldamar Valley.
No, I don't want to pop over to the Grand March. I gave it away now. And run it. I want to run it in this area. So, we made the town of Lorraine on the map near Narwhal just because I want to run this thing because I never did. So, and then if you're really blessed, you get guys like Carlos to write 3 adventures for you. Carlos, out of the kindness, and we ran them all. My gosh, and he tortured the hell out of some of my players, and I love that. So. Yeah.
1E guy, like you said, I'm a Pierce 1E guy, man. I go, it's deadly.
Well, the one thing I got to say, the classic modules, I am much more into RP than I am in combat. You have to know your group if you're getting those classic modules because
you're right.
They can be dungeon crawls, and if your people aren't in that,
that's true.
You're not going to have a good time.
Yeah, that's true.
One of my players said it. Aaron, I think Aaron's still listening. In Greyhawk, there was something where we had a whole bunch of creatures locked into circles, and they're debating who's evil and what's not. And he said, "Dude, this is Greyhawk. If it's ugly, it's evil." Just dealing with which is it worked out in the realm of the riddle. But some of these classic modules, they're great dungeon crawls. But if your people don't want dungeon crawls, you could
That's a key point too. You need to know your players.
Yes.
So if you don't know your players before you start a campaign, you're in trouble. You gotta kind of get a feel if they're sandboxers or if they're module type, dungeon crawlers, or if they like to be led by their noses or not. You have to like kind of get a feel for it. It's tough. It's tough, and it doesn't. You can't do that like in 2 months. You're not going to be. It's not going to be perfected your style because it's 40 years and I'm still making changes here and there. I'm making tweaks. I'm adding stuff. I'm taking stuff away. I'm adding. All right. So our new first levels. I have never allowed the playtest of this class, the Barbarian Cleric, which is that's a great Dragon Magazine article. I'm letting Tim play one, and I've always said nah, I'm not. But now I'm a little intrigued by it. So you got to make changes too. You got to. It's Carlos brought this up. Is your document a living, breathing document? The answer is yes. You have so your DM style is a living, breathing document too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So a good point there. So well, thank you, the White Griffin. And White Griffin's Vernon Vincent, who played last night, Owain the Paladin last night. So he got the Shield of Prey, which I ripped off from Fortress Elendar, which is a high fantasy game from the 70s that's on our wall of honor there. So it's always good to rip off stuff from other locations too.
I have a question.
Go for it.
Jay, it's obvious your organization that is added. Did we all add an organization to Greyhawk for our players' benefit? Mine, my players they just got their trading company, which is Split Wave Trading Company because it's halfway between Split Rock and Wavecrest.
Cool.
And so they decided Split Wave.
Good question.
So
Carlos has an organization.
Well, I've got multiple organizations. Actually, I've added the newest one that I've added is for my online game, which is there's a group called Procan's Eye, and their whole goal. Procan's Eye is a group of archaeologists that is interested in some lore that they've discovered in the middle of the Solar Ocean, and they've recruited the players to help them build a headquarters on Radix Coast so that they can operate from there. And now that they've ingratiated themselves more to that organization, they're actually going to let them help them in the exploration of what they find there, which is going to be horrific. I'm sorry if there's any players out there. I didn't mean that. It's going to be fun. It's going to be lots of fun.
I mean, there's going to be treasure.
There's going to be lots of treasure, but they got to figure their way around it, navigate their way around what they've this Pandora's box that they've opened up with the gods first. That's a little bit of a side quest that's becoming so prominent that it's almost like a main quest in itself now.
It's good. I see how good it is to get away from the us versus IU's deal in Greyhawk. Yeah. And that's why I brought back my evil organization from 30, 40 years ago, the Dark Brotherhood, just because, and they hate IUs. And I wanted to go a different direction. To make it my own again,
That's interesting because I did the same thing 20 years ago. I kind of skipped IUs and say now we run against IUs for 20 years. That was it. So, but now after 20 years, now I want to be back again. I want to have the nostalgia. So now I'm back in IU's country again. So in the border, the border areas of the empire of IUs. But now it's a different. This time it's IUs is not on the offensive. Now his offensive are ground to a halt, and the rest of the world have started to learn to deal with him. And there is now a kind of a new era, so to speak. It's post-war, really, so to speak, and things are starting to perk up here and there, and people in the area don't know which way it's going to go, so to speak. And before it was kind of that struggle between IUs and the surrounding lands, and then the surrounding lands managed it grind to a halt, and now there are new times coming, and no one knows exactly what's going to come. So that's the kind of the start. IUs is now more on the defensive than it had been in a long time because there's no easy pillaging and looting. So he needs to have a new way of financing his effort, so to speak. And he is not the ruler that is kind of likes to sit down and governing status quo, so to speak. So he wants change one way or the other, and there is no easy pickings. What he's been doing since the start of the Greyhawk Wars have now come to an end. He needs to change or start suffering, and he knows that. And the rest of the world is starting to figure that out too. So what's going to happen, so to speak? That's the starting premise, the big picture. And there's also now other actors that have started to learn. Meaning the Shield lands are now back. They haven't conquered back, but they have taken Crit Wall and the surrounding areas, and they now have a new generation of young, eager fighters that are keen on taking back their lands again. Hi.
All right,
Shane.
so in honor of Father's Day, I'm sorry to do a quick interrupt.
Please.
Shane did his first ever miniature paint job.
Oh, nice.
Ooh,
Yes.
Look at that.
All right, so there you go.
Oh, whoa.
So here it is. He's holding
Wow.
it too. Yes. So
That looks fantastic.
yeah, it's from the Reaper. It's from a Reaper survival kit. So from Reaper Miniatures, and then I got him his own paint set with Reapers. His mom, who's got a little artistic, helped him a little bit, but yeah. So he's starting to learn how to paint miniatures now.
Damn.
Shane's better than I am.
If that's the first miniature, wait until he painted 50, and he will be half professional.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
That is fantastic.
So getting into the crafting aspect of it, and it's one of those bones that comes in the, it's nice plastic miniature, so we're not worried about dropping it or anything. But Reaper has some really great stuff for kids now. So
wow,
yeah, absolutely.
That looks
so
awesome.
Right. Yeah. So there you go.
Good job. Yep.
As he came in there, so sorry about that interruption.
No, that was awesome. Yeah, I was done anyway, so that was perfect.
Yeah, he's yes. Thank you, Vernon. Happy Father's Day to you as well. I know we're winding up here. We're at our 2 hours time. So why don't we say in closing a little bit what you all wanted to say to the audience as far as some final thoughts, Brian. And we'll do some shout outs too after that.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Don't be intimidated by Greyhawk. I know we talk it up, but let's be honest. It's just another setting. You can make it your own. There's a lot out there. You can dive as deep into it as you want or as shallow as you want. You can just take the places and run with it. You can take just the deities and run with it. You can take nothing and run with it and just call Greyhawk. Although that one might be questionable. Don't be intimidated. Just bits and pieces. Honestly, like my group, we are in Solenmore. We've spent a lot of time in the Whole Marshes, and when they got their magical keep, I said, "You guys choose pretty much anywhere." I gave them some minor loose boundaries, and they decided, we're just going to stay right here because this place is pretty intimidating. And it's what they were familiar with, and they kind of had some links and ties and all that kind of stuff already. So,
are you enjoying yourself though? Really? I mean, you are. You're glad you made the jump from Forgotten Realms.
Yeah, I am. I'm like I said. To me, it's one setting or another. Here's where I don't have the old school ties that you guys do to it. I didn't play the classic modules. I didn't read much of the lore until I decided to get into it. Do I enjoy what's out there? Yes. Do I find it very easy to, for the most part, I can very easily find a reference to some sort of site or some sort of this if I want some history on it. This is the kind of my controversial statement with Greyhawk is you could get a lot of this with another place. I think it's more about the community than it is about the setting.
Okay. Nothing wrong with that. Absolutely. Well, I appreciate that. Carlos, what do you think?
Well, I would say for myself that making Greyhawk your own is a lot about it's varying from source material you've already been given. So I think that it's important, even though I love canon. I mean, it to me, I think I may run a more canon game than anybody here, but in fact, I know I do. But to me, I think knowing canon is important, so you have the source material to deviate from at all. So but also remember, there's no sacred cows. I mean, for example, if you want to run a module without the Circle of Eight, there's no problem with that. If you want to run one without IUs, there's no problem with that. That's part of making the game your own, and it's, in a way, I find that more interesting than a stock game like mine. Where there's these cool hooks going on that I was like, wow, I never even considered that for a second. That's really a neat deviation from what I've seen presented in all these books that anybody can read. So don't be afraid to change things that people consider to be these core tenets of the campaign. Like, for example, the Scarlet Brotherhood. Okay, everybody knows that they're out there.
I gave
maybe-
Leon an apprentice.
Yeah.
There you go. So yeah, don't be afraid to get rid of some of that stuff or change it in a way that reflects what you like and what your players want, because that's really in the end what the most important part of the game is. We talk all the time about our different the way that we handle different items in the game, or the way that we present things, and it's all cool, but in a sense it's all just window trapping too. The thing that matters most is your game, your players. Make it something that they like and that you like.
Absolutely. Good, very great points from both of you. And what do you think on this closing?
I must say I agree with almost everything except that don't call it Greyhawk if you don't take anything from Greyhawk. That's probably I like the caveat that Brian put in there. That's the, but I totally agree that take as much as little as you want, so to speak. So and steal, because Greyhawk has a lot of awesome things you can steal and use in other settings, definitely. And also, don't try and learn everything in one go.
Yeah.
Don't, because this is if you want to meaning, I've studied one aspect of Greyhawk more than anything, the geography of it, and I've done it for better part of 4 decades now, and now I'm starting to feel like I have a fairly good grip on things, meaning we're talking a doctorate to do it. So you can, but actually I'm pretty sure that there's a whole bunch of I know there's a whole bunch of DMs who have studied the setting 10% as much as I have, and they can run way better Greyhawk campaigns than I do. So it's not about the more you know about the setting, the better your games are. No, it's probably that I'm misusing my time management, making maps and study the setting rather than running games. So it's more my fault, so to speak, because I think that part of world building and stuff is fun in itself. And you find a lot of that cool stuff in the Greyhawk community. And Carlos, instead of he runs a lot of games at conventions and stuff, but he also spend a lot of time writing modules rather than just running awesome homebrew games for his gamers. Make use of creators like that, meaning take my maps and Carlos modules and watch Jay's channel and read Brian's blog, meaning there's an plethora of awesome content, because a lot of Greyhawkers are over creative people with too much time on their hands who just wants to get all the stuff out there, so to speak. And so there's the good thing, so to speak. So don't be intimidated. Take one little spot and start making that your own, and go from there gently, so to speak, rather than trying to gulp. It's like eating an elephant. And then if you don't like it, ignore it. And the only caveat with that is that if you run with a consistent group of players, they want to stick with it, so to speak, because I don't think players will say that, we don't like what we did before, so let's skip that part of the history. So it depends on what game group you're running it with, so to speak. So think it through one evening or a couple hours and then run with it and have fun. That's the most important bit.
And all I'll say is the good thing about this community that we're trying to all grow together is that we're here for advice. So, and I'm so honored that John came to me and said, how do I get into Greyhawk? And I said, well, let's do this, this, and this. And it was about 2 months, and then I ran the session 0 for them, and then they ran with it, and they've had 2 great streams so far on it, and that's what we're looking for. And I've always said this. The what my idea was for doing this con was, well, it's virtual, so it's not going to be that as difficult as just making a real con, but maybe we can get even more people involved in the community, and that's kind of, what the whole idea behind this is. So if you have questions, you can reach all of us. We're on multiple formats, Discord or Facebook or whatever one you use. We're on there. So feel free to reach out. We'll always try to answer your questions as quickly as possible. So utilize the resources that we have available, here, and that's part of being a community. So. That's all. I think that's good enough for what I have to say on that. So let's do some what's going on in the world, Brian, shout out wise. We'll start with you, Brian, on that. You got your game this week?
No, we just finished up the 2-week cycle. So for
Okay.
anybody who doesn't know, we do 2 weeks on where IDM, then we do 2 weeks of Call of Cthulhu. So we're on our Call of Cthulhu rotation, which is good. So let's see here. The last 2 weeks, we named the trading company. They named their ship the Megalodon. The wagon is the Land Shark. Their horses are Boo and Lay. And they just wrapped up. They got a smith at the place, at their trade company.
It's
And
awesome.
they are just leaving. They left their master counterfeiter forger type guy that they had a tie with, left his house to get some fake tax documents to show that they're a legitimate company. And they were waylaid by orcs.
Cool. So, but
So now it's
Brian's
weekend about that.
Brian's a 3D crafter too. So we're getting more and more of Bill's painting up. Brian sent me a bag of stuff that Bill was working on. We showed some of it in the last couple streams. All the miscellaneous stuff that makes my setups even look that much better. So Brian, thank you for that stuff. Oh, there it is. There's the tilt wall for our joust. Yes. When we're going to do a festival with a joust down the road, and he's made the tilt wall for me. Another great thing. So, thanks, Brian. Carlos.
How much time do you have?
Well, I know you have a new catalog. I got it. I downloaded it today.
Yeah, man. I'm going to start with the online stuff very quickly.
Sure.
I have a Castle Talk at the end of this month going on, which is my interview show that I do with various Greyhawk luminaries. This one is 3 artists that contribute to the aesthetic of Castle Entertainment products. Jade Hilliard-Simpson, Daniel Govar, and Chet Minton, who a lot of you know. I'm doing that. I just had yesterday my my Greyhawk game, online game, First Betrayal. So that'll be coming on 2 weeks from now. Either the 3rd or the 4th of July. I have to nail that down with my players. They'll probably be doing a couple of solos in between now and then. It's something you can look for. We just released our newest module, published for the public. This would be C14, the Sanguine Labyrinth, over there. For those of you who are familiar with the I Use the Evil material, there's a place in there called the Dungeon of Bleeding Walls. Well, that's the Sanguine Labyrinth.
Oh,
With the numbers filed off in order
yes.
to respect Wizards of the Coast.
Awesome.
Yes, it's the first part of a 3-part mega dungeon that I'm doing. So first Castle Entertainment mega dungeon. So
That's
I hope you'll really dig that.
Wow.
Tim might like it because I'm doing stuff with the Rovers of the Baron in it, because that's really where it is.
Mhm.
I think as far as my convention modules, it's been the best received module I've had. I think people really, really like this one. So I hope everybody out there really likes it. So that's out there. You guys can pick it up from www.castlentertainment.com. I'm in the middle of doing my Patreon stuff for this month. This month's coming up in July. The theme will be dwarves. And I've got 3 character sheets as usual, a module, a monster of the month, a spell of the month, a magic item of the month, and I'm doing a mini module. The mini module is done. I believe it is 22 pages with full map and everything in there. It's called We Work the Black Seam Together. And finally, I think, oh yes, I'm working on my newest module right now as we speak, and that one is called To the City of the Elder Gods. It's a love letter to Rob Kuntz's Mordenkainen's Fantastic Adventure. So I hope everybody digs that as well. So I think that's kind of a high overview of what I'm doing. I'm also setting up. Thank you, Amanda Rue. We're playtesting the next version, the next Slave Lord module that I'm doing, which is called From Dark Roses, Black Thorns Grow on July 6th on our Twitch chat.
I love that name.
Oh, thanks very much.
I love that name.
We have the prototype over here. I don't think I'll show the cover quite yet. I really like it. It's from one of our artists, Rachel Quinlan. She did a great job on it. For those of you who are familiar with the Slave Lords modules, the title might give away who the bad guy is, but that's okay. It's fun that way too. And also, I'm preparing for our charity thing that we're doing. My passion is cheetah conservation in the wild. And my module that I'm doing for that is called Tears That Forever Stain. And I'm blowing that one out. I mentioned to Anna in the beginning of this, I've got a Hepmona Land map in there, part of Hepmona Land, that I think is really cool. I think that you guys, I'm pulling out all the stops for this one. There's a lot of really cool stuff in this one.
Wow.
You guys will really like it.
Dates early 2021 for that?
Either January. Yes,
Okay.
I'm almost sure it'll be January 2020. We originally had this planned for April. April obviously was when everything blew up in the world, so we pushed it back to September. Well, September is looking ugly too, so what we're doing is we're pushing it back to January. Early January, January 7th for my birthday.
Okay, cool.
And it'll be a whole week of games.
Oh, that's great.
I'm going to have one VIP in every game, and I'm going to run one session of it every day.
That will be fantastic, and hopefully we raise a lot of money. So
yeah, me too, because it's they estimate right now there's 3,000 cheetahs left in the wild. The only thing that they can't outrun is extinction unless we help them.
I imagine the whole community would reach out and support your charity, Carlos. And thank you for coming on tonight. And
thanks so much for having me.
It's a pleasure, absolute pleasure. Anna, what do we got?
Yeah, now finally I've been babbling about my Atlas 576 Atlas for a month now, or but it's been a project that took much longer to get out of the starting blocks than I thought, because it was a lot of things that needed to come into place in order to get it right, so to speak, because it is a huge project. And it will probably be the last that will use the now 20-year-old base map that has been painted over and kind of spruced up and put some makeup on over 20 years. So it will be the last going out with a bang, but I think it will be cool. And now finally the first 4 parts, and I'm going to put the link to them in chat right now. So you can go and check it out. That's the straight link to my Dropbox. I'm going to make a proper blog post on my website and stuff. I will either do that tonight or tomorrow. But there you can look at the maps. It comes in the map. It will be 11 by 17 inch. Ready for print, so to speak. So PDFs, so you can either get them with bleed. There is like a 1/4 inch bleed around, and also an extra margin in the middle. So you can, basically one map will cover a whole map spread with one 11 by 17 on each. So you can make them spiral bound or soft bound or hard cover bound or whatever. So you take the PDFs and you go to a printer and you say, I want these pages print and spiral bound or whatever you want.
Wow.
So that's one way of doing it. And the pages there will be, the whole big map will be on 50 of these maps, so there will be 100 pages in order for you before to get the whole map, so to speak. That's how large it is. We're talking a map 10 by 10 feet. And there will even be a few small areas on this map that I have specially made for this. So this will actually cover a little bit more than any of the previous. So there will be a few small areas that I've actually added because I didn't want to cut off. There's some islands and stuff that are cut in half. So I'm actually going to add the rest of the islands and then a few small other treats that will be added in. And there will also be political map. There will be overview maps and stuff. And the other key bit in this, there will be an Excel spreadsheet. There will be a master index with every location and every name that is on the map. Over 30,000 of them will be on a master index. and so will be, and that will be both in printed form, and it will also come as an Excel spreadsheet that you can download from my website. So that will be, and so this will be, I hope, a good introduction and something that you can kind of, yeah, you can grab. And there will be also a digital version that have the both spreads merged into one file, and that will be perfect to use on a computer or a tablet or something like that. So you get the whole map not on two separate sheets of paper, but one JPEG that is also compressed a bit, so it's not that big in size. That would be perfect to use for, and each of these have a coordinate system. So there will be like an A to 1 to 10, I think it is, an H to G, and then you will have a reference. So the map number and the alphanumeric, so you can find it just like in. I modeled it very much on the Rand McNally Road Atlas. So it will be meaning if you want to travel around the Flannies, this is the atlas you need, so to speak.
Perfect.
That will tell you that way. So that's the big product. And this is also going to be something that I think will be an awesome introduction for Greyhawk. If you never know your way around and you get an adventure that says that this little wheel, meaning you want to find out where the that little dungeon that is up in Rovers of the Barrens and is up in the cold marshes. Now you can know where the cold marshes is, and you can find that little dungeon, that little hole in the ground and up there, so to speak. So all the places will be you can easily find them. And I will try and make as many overview maps and stuff too. So political maps and other areas and stuff to present it. And also the, well, there will be a heraldry section too, an appendix or heraldry section. And the pages will not be numbered. And because the maps will be numbered, not the pages, because that way, if there's something you don't like, you can simply skip it. So and only print the pages you like, and you can also change the order of them, because some of it you want to have certain things in the back, and some of you more interested. So that way you can mix and match the stuff. So that way it will be more flexible, so to speak.
Oh my gosh.
And so yeah, so this is a huge undertaking, and the goal is to have it done by virtual Greyhawk Con. Then the whole thing should be done. So yeah, so that's the goal. So they will be, I've done 4 now over the last 4 days, and so the goal is to have 5 maps done. There's the Flannies is will be divided up into 50 maps, and I will do 5 of these maps a week at least. That's the goal. So it will hopefully be done in August. But then there's a whole bunch of other maps and the cover page and the index and all that, so to speak. So there might be a few appendix that might not be done by virtual Greyhawk, but at least all the map pages, and there will be an Excel spreadsheet of the index. At least that will be done by virtual Greyhawk. So
I think that, you know what, maybe we could convince Jason Zavoda to somehow include the material from your index into the Encyclopedia Greyhawkana and make kind of like a bridge between the source material and
you are now taking words out of my mouth, because that was the next aspect of the atlas that I was going to talk about, because Jason asked me if he could help, and I said that Jason is one of the experts on module locations. That's one of my weakness, and one of my many weaknesses, but one of the major weaknesses when it comes to this is module locations. So now I've asked Braggy, Brian Doherty. He's another one. He made an adventure atlas some years ago, like 10 years ago or something, that was actually the opposite of mine, meaning it had awesome quality, and especially one awesome quality that is the big drawback on my map. You don't find the module locations on my map. His atlas was all about the module locations. So I'm going to ask him, and hopefully he can help too. And Jason Savoda already said to me that he's going to help me. There will be an index of the modules and all the settlements and the places where the modules. So you can go to A1, the slave lords, or something, or you can go to G1 or something, and you can see what are the places and where on the map that module is set. So you know where is the keep of the borderlands. It's Kendall Keep, and it's in square so and so on map so and so. So that's one of the other functions that I think is vital for this map.
It's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, so that's one of the big. Now I have some other. I'm also gearing up for my upcoming campaign that will be set in the Shield lands in 598, 599 in my campaign reckoning, so to speak. And that is going. Now people say, "Oh, that's just for your players," but the cool thing with this, I'm working on some projects map-wise and some other projects in line with this. And that's something that not only my players, everyone will get it. First, my patrons will get it, and then everyone. And there will be some awesome goodies for that one. That will be once the campaign. It might take 6-8 months by the end of the year, but it's going to come out, and that map will blow everything out of the water that I've done so far. And it will be the coolest Greyhawk map ever, and it will be a special treat, so to speak, and something to what's coming, so to speak. So there will be some special treats going on that I've developed my own campaign that we can actually kind of generalize and use in it, and they would introduce a new kind of more in-depth look at map making for Greyhawk. So that's coming, and I hope that will be something I can present by Christmas. That's the idea, because the Atlas will take the summer, most of the work, and most of my time for that. And I'll also try to put aside as many other commissions as possible. I have 2 other small commissions that I worked on up until now. I have one that I'm still working on the side, but it's almost 80% Greyhawk now. And I hope that within a month, it will be, the whole summer will just be Greyhawk. And this fall, I've tried to push a couple of commissions as far away in the future as possible, because I want to start my own campaign. I want to learn more about Fantasy Grounds, and I also want to do some campaign-related special projects that will be then handed over to the Greyhawk community afterwards.
So let's just jump right into what I'll go in reverse.
Exactly. Now I'm done. So please. Yep.
This is all right. Let me go through what's upcoming here real quick. So Wednesday night, Legends and Lore, fantastic locations. All those locations that are in the back of the Jim Ward book, they're like Sisyphos Erd and all those. We're going to talk about them. We're going to talk about locations. There's locations on the map I don't even know what the hell they are. You know, especially on the eastern side of the map. Like we had this discussion on the Isles of Woe. I didn't even know what that is. You know, I need to learn a little bit more.
Yep.
So we're going to have that on Wednesday.
Fantastic. Yeah, it will be a road tour around the map.
Yes. Yeah,
Yep.
of some fantastic locations. So that'll be Legends and Lore. Thursday night, we start our brand new. I don't even think I have a thing done up for that, do I? I don't think I do. Okay.
Oh, you have.
Well, Thursday night is Norwell. We're going to start a new Norwell campaign on Thursday, and then we're going to next Gabbin on Saturday, on Sunday, because there's no Saturday night game. It's the summertime. My wife wants me to do stuff, so I won't be. That stream on Saturday is the last one for a couple weeks. An introduction to Norwell is Gabbin number 99. Okay, so we're going to talk about Norwell. We're going to talk about the characters, the area around it. That'll be next week's Gabbin. The Gabbin after that. July 5th, I'm taking off for the 4th of July weekend. July 12th is the 100th Gabbin show. We had a massive 50 show. I know, Carlos, you were on, Anna, you were on. Anyone who's ever been a guest on the show is welcome to come on, even if it's for 10 minutes just to say hello, and we're just going to rap about Greyhawk for as long as the show goes. Leonard is already committed. He'll be on for like 30, 40 minutes, and he'll be on. And
I'll live here for the day. Yeah.
Excuse me. So Sunday, July 12th, that'll be the 100th Gabbin show. I didn't think we'd ever get here, but we did. All right. Greyhawk Con. We are really starting to crank up. Registration's only in 2 weeks. We're going to start registering for stuff. So I made this postcard. I have them they're coming. I have like 750 of them for handouts. Excuse me. Got a little tickle cough. No COVID, guys.
Yeah, I have them too. Yep.
Already scheduled. Anna's show Saturday will be Friday night. I'm gonna put this in Eastern just because so my brain doesn't rewire. 7 p.m. Eastern Friday night will be the Greyhawk campaign of Anna Meyer, and that's what she was talking about with our custom maps. Whatever she decides to show everyone, I think it'll probably be our top viewed stream of the entire event. Probably. Okay, that's going to be how good it is. Followed by Will is going to go right in after that. So Will's going to take that late night spot after that. up. And the great thing about this is everyone's going to stream on their own channels. So if you run late, it's no big deal. You don't have to worry about any of that. You run and you get, and it's a community. Everyone gets their benefit on their own channels for whatever they're running. Some other things that are set. Mike Disney Friday morning is going to paint a miniature from probably a high-level baddie in my campaign, and he's going to talk about painting techniques on Reaper, and that'll be Friday morning. Nightheart Gaming is going to be on Saturday afternoon. I'm going to attempt to have an all-star game Saturday night. Blue Box is going to run a game Sunday afternoon, so we're trying to get everyone involved. So I'm excited about it, and plus we're just going to have games for everyone to play too. So. Yeah, like Brian's gonna, so for general signups as well. So I'm excited about it, and if you want to participate, please contact me. You know, we're trying to make it so that and this is nothing. I had a little discussion with someone earlier, and I just want to say this: it's not about. Some people have asked me, well, what does it take for them to get streamed? And everyone who's streaming, we're gonna have a link for every show. We're just gonna highlight. I have to do this, guys. I have to highlight the people who are affiliates who put in the work. Plus, we got to make sure the streams know what they're. You know, I'm not trying to belittle anyone. Know what they're doing, right? The affiliates are the streamers that know what they're doing. They've worked hard at it. They're part of this partnership. But I guarantee you, if you're new to streaming and you do something for Greyhawk, I will have a link of everyone who's streaming a show. We'll make sure that you're in there somewhere and that you can get clicked on. Okay, and it'll be a link to you because we want to make everyone inclusive on this. Make sense to everyone there?
Yep.
Absolutely. Okay, cool. Thanks for the show, guys. That was awesome. Thank you so very
Thank
much,
you.
Carlos. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Will. Thank you, Leonard, for hopping in unexpectedly again. And thank you, John. We'll see you all. Wednesday night for Legends and Lore. I'm gonna hit the wrong button. Probably. I always hit the wrong button. I hit the right button this time. We're gonna raid into someone we've never raided into before, Mini Terrain Domain. Because he does a lot with miniatures, so I'm interested. Hey, Frank, good night. Yeah, let's raid to Mini Terrain Domain. Let me see if I don't mess this up.
You're gonna mess it up.
I always mess these things up.
He's already messed it up.
Terrain. There he goes. He popped up.
You get extra points if you join the raid.
Look at that. We're rated. Yeah, good number. All right, 10 seconds, guys. Thank you all for a fantastic show. I really appreciate all the support. We're here for you. Like I said, reach out if you have any questions. Raid starting now.
Good Lord, Anna, this map is incredible.
It's awesome, isn't it? It's unbelievable, Carlos. It's absolutely unbelievable.
I'm just looking at it right now.
Oh, the Atlas, you mean?
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah. I think they turn out good, so to speak. So
Yeah,
if you look at the JPEG version, then you get the two sides of the of the same just merged together, and